Good afternoon, evening, and welcome to the May 12th Planning Board meeting. Happy Mother's Day to all the mothers in the room. And I'd like to ask everyone to have a moment of silence, please. All right, if we could all rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We have items of information, Diane.
It's the same one from last month, but we wanted to announce it again for anyone that hadn't heard. The Tingen Road Bicycle and Pedestrian Bridge Feasibility Study Design Charrette is open to the public on Thursday, May 22nd at Apex Senior Center Seaboard Room from 4 to 6 p.m. And you can drop in any time. There's not a program. There's just information that you all can get.
Thank you. All right. I'm going to open the floor for public comment. Public comment is an opportunity for the public to speak on any item of their choosing that is not listed in the public hearing section. And that includes new business. All that we will do is ask for you to sign in over here to the left, and you will have up to 3 minutes to speak. There's anybody who has signed up for public comment?
There's no one. Okay.
Thank you. All right, with that, I will close public comment and bring it back to the committee to consider a motion to approve the agenda for the minutes for the April 14th meeting.
Motion to approve the minutes.
Thank you. And also, gentle reminder, I forgot, when you make a motion, please state your name.
Alyssa makes a motion.
Thank you. It helps both staff and folks who are listening via webcam to know who is saying what. Second. Sarah seconds. Thank you. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? All right, with that, the agenda is approved, and we will move on to public hearings. The first one is item number 1. And I'm asking for recusal of Alyssa. Is that correct? Yes. Can I have a motion to recuse Alyssa for this public hearing?
This is Jeff, so moved.
Thank you.
Keith, second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, Shannon, public hearing and possible motion regarding amendments to the thoroughfare and Collector Street Plan Map and Bicycle Pedestrian System Plan.
All right, thank you. Good afternoon. These amendments are associated with Grace Christian School, and they are along Veridia Parkway. So just to orient you to the exhibit, this is Veridia Parkway. Here's US 1, and proposed Grace Christian School is in this location. The first proposed amendment is to add a future roundabout on Veridia Parkway. This would be at the Grace Christian School driveway and also across from a future major collector street on our transportation plan. With the addition of the roundabout, this provides a good opportunity for pedestrian crossings. So we are also proposing to shift the side path, which is the purple dashed line, from the west side of Veridia Parkway to the east side. This would allow students and others to cross at the roundabout, use a side path adjacent to the school, and connect to the Greenway, Big Branch Greenway in this location. The third proposed amendment is to remove the future grade separated, so that would be bridge or tunnel, pedestrian crossing from Veridia Parkway. Sorry, my cursor keeps disappearing. With the addition of the roundabout, that provides the opportunity for pedestrian crossings. Also, since Grace Christian School will have the buildings and parking on the same side of the road, they're no longer required by the UDO to build that grade-separated crossing. Their parking is no longer separated by a right-of-way greater than 80 feet. So we are proposing to remove that from the plan. You can see on their draft plan set kind of how this would all come together. This is the proposed roundabout. There's side path on both sides to allow for those crossings on both sides. Side path along Viridia Parkway with the connection to the Greenway. We have reviewed this with Transportation Infrastructure and Development staff, and they're supportive of the addition of the roundabout and the bicycle and pedestrian plan changes. So our Parks and Rec staff, planning staff do recommend approval of these amendments. And I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Shannon. Do we have any questions?
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, I'm going to open the floor for public hearing for any public comment. No. All right. All right, with that, we'll close public comment and bring it back to the board for consideration, discussion, and possible motion.
Motion to approve. This is Jeff.
Thank you.
Daniel, motion the second.
All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? All right, passes unanimously. Can I have a motion to bring Alyssa back to conversation?
I'll make a motion to bring Alyssa back.
Thank you. And a second?
I, Sarah, could second.
All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. And we're going to move on to item number 2. Bruce is going to present on the public hearing and possible motion regarding rezoning case 24-2CZ11 Altera Heights PUD. And just for folks in the audience, as well as folks listening, as well as the developers for this proposal, just want a gentle reminder that individuals have 3 minutes to speak. If you are representing a large group of folks, say there's 3 or 4 of you, and you want to combine your comments, you may take up to 9 minutes, I believe it is. And we encourage limited repetition, please. All right, Bruce, thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Good evening, board members. So we have the case where we have the 24ZZ11 Altera Heights. It is a multifamily proposal for conditional zoning. Location here, as you can see, is located in the northwest area of town. The applicant, Wood Partners, is seeking to rezone 3 parcels that are about a combined size of 13.5 acres. From right now, they're zoned to rural residential, and they're looking to rezone these to planned unit development conditional zoning. Here in this aerial image, you can see the site is adjacent to the northwest. Here is the Cary Apex Water Treatment Facility, and it sits across from the preserve at White Oak Creek, the Alderwood subdivision, and along across Wimberley Park across the way, and then the towns at Westford and Ardent at Summit Pines along the south along Jenks Road. Here you can just see it has a pretty good frontage along Wimberley Drive, and then slightly limited frontage along Jenks Road, but it's still there. The current zoning for the district is stated as rural residential, surrounded by other residential and conditionally zoned districts as seen on the map here. Should this be approved, the rezoning would change from rural residential to the planned unit development conditional zoning. Here is what the 2045 land use map currently has the site marked as. It's currently designated as office, employment, and commercial services. This designation does not support the residential uses that are currently being proposed by Altera Heights. And this is, if this rezoning was approved, this is what it would look like. They're proposing to amend the land use map from the office, employment, commercial services to high density residential, and that's what it would look like. Should this be approved, this would be amended automatically through per section NCGC 160D 605A. All right. Existing conditions. There's some wooded areas along the site. There's a couple single family homes present on the site. There's one to the north there, across from White Oak Pond Road, and then one there near the intersection of Jinx and Wimberley Road as well. This is the proposed site plan that's been provided by the applicant as part of their plan development document. On the map, we can see the general layout and the purpose of the site with potential utility connections. I apologize, they're a little small, but the utility connections are located. The water is at the intersection of White Oak Pond Road and Wimberley, and there's one more towards the center in the middle there too. It's a little blue asterisk with a potential sewer connection to the southwest there, the little parcel just below that corner where the RCA green area is there on the map as well. I can point to it with my mouse since that one's a little harder to see right there. The site is going to be primarily comprised of multifamily district. There's going to be an active recreational space, as we can see here in this little square, and there's RC area to be dedicated as well. The site is proposing 2 access points. We have the access to both access points are located off of Wimberley Road here. Both will be full movement, and there's a proposed 10-foot side path that runs the length of the property along Wimberley and Jinx Road. Now, that's this purple dashed line here. As you can see, there is a little bit of an issue here that it goes all the way along the property line of Wimberley. But when we get to Jinx Road, given that there's only minimal frontage for this parcel along Jinx Road, it only goes about this far, if you can see where my mouse is right there. The hatch shape on this part of this parcel is where they're proposing, or where they will limit the height of any proposed apartment buildings. We discussed with them how we were looking for a more gradual transition from their proposed 4-story, 60-foot apartment buildings to the adjacent across the way single-family homes. So in this area, no apartments will be above 3 stories. Anything located within that hatch period along Wimberley Road. All right. The site will adhere to the RCA requirements as prescribed in the UDO. The perimeter buffers and street buffers are present. I'm not sure if you caught this in your staff report. There was, what the UDO requires versus what we propose. There's some slight variation. Along Wimberley Road, it requires a 30-foot, but that's been reduced to a 20-foot. There's a note there. A lot of this has to do with a 30-foot Duke easement that runs along the property. And this is the applicant is proposing that in order to stay out of that easement and still provide the necessary buffering required. The applicant did meet with the Town of Apex's Environmental Advisory Board, and they provided the applicant with 7 zoning conditions, and where the applicant agreed to 4 of the 7, and the conditions were outlined in the staff report. Some of the conditions that they did agree to was including such things as signs located at the SEMs to discourage fertilizer, dog waste, things like that. That they would use 70% of plants shall be native species. The EAB did request 75, but the applicant came back with 70, and that's what they proposed so far. They'll provide signs next to adjacent wooded or natural RCA areas to indicate that this area is to be preserved in perpetuity. And they are going to provide 2 pet way stations to the project that can be publicly accessible. So those will be near their amenity center or along sidewalks, greenways, or side paths as well. All right. The Wake County School Public System did receive a letter, and they provided us with some information. They indicate that the high school within the current assignment area for this rezoning development are anticipated to have insufficient capacity for future students. Transportation to the school outside of the current assignment area should be anticipated. School expansion or construction within the next 5 years may address this concern at the high school level. Possibly long-term solutions may include capping students out to schools with available seats, reassignments, or calendar changes. The applicant did hold both their required neighborhood meetings, and then they have offered affordable housing as part of this project. The applicant is proposing 10% of the units, which is approximately 30 out of the 300 that are proposed, will be affordable for a length of term for 15 years. They do have listed in their conditions that half of the units will be provided at 80% AMI and half will be provided at 100% AMI. So, we're looking at 5% of each of those. These are some elevations that were provided part of the project. There were some concerns between staff and the applicant just kind of meeting some of the design requirements in Chapter 9 of the UDO. One of them specifically is just requires a prominent entrance for the building itself. We relayed this to them, we had some discussion, and the applicant ultimately decided to proceed with the illustrations as provided, even though there are some discrepancies. Here's another elevation. All right, so these images are from the town of Apex's bike and pedestrian plan map system. System map. Staff suggested that the developer extend the 10-foot side path from the corner here of Jinks Road down here about 600 feet. This property that I'm pointing to here is actually owned by the town itself. That was something that we requested, and the applicant, due to their justification, was providing additional affordable housing, was not capable to provide at this time. So that's something we'll just list there. As seen in the images, a purple dash located there. Another issue of just that staff wanted to bring to your attention, as far as the density of the proposed units is about 22.14 units per acre. This is a bit higher than that of the apartments to the south, which is only 13, and to the townhomes of Alderwood PUD to the east, which is only about 7. The land use map shows a trend towards lower residential densities as one moves towards the north, this intersection of Wimberley and Jenks as well. One final item, you saw this in your staff report, just there was an alteration, a request for relief for some parking. Per the UDO, they would be required to provide 1.5 units parking spaces. Per 1.5 units, they're required to provide one parking space. Here they've requested a relief, so they changed that from 1.5 to 1.3. So ultimately, when they kind of divvied it up, and these numbers may change from the 1 to 2 and 3 bedroom counts, we're looking at about 55 less parking spaces proposed. So just something to be aware of as well. All right. Planning staff currently is recommending denial due to inconsistency with the land use and transportation plans of the town of Apex, and also due to the density that is not consistent with neighboring developments nearby. The statement of consistency will address the comprehensive and other applicable plans reasonable and effect on the public interest. The proposed rezoning to planned development conditional zoning is not consistent with the town of Apex's 2045 land use map, which designates the subject area properties as office employment commercial services. The requested high-density multifamily use does not conform to the intended land use designation, which is focused on supporting employment, generating uses, and sustaining the town's economic development objectives. Furthermore, like I said, the proposed density of 22.14 dwelling units per acre is much higher than that of the apartments to the south and to the townhomes of the Alderwood PUD and to the east, and to the 2045 land use map shows a trend of lowering densities as you move north, Wimberley and Jenks Road. Although the applicant has proposed 10% income restricted affordable housing units, this level of commitment does not constitute the sufficient public benefit to warrant a change from the adopted land use designation. The town's affordable housing and incentive zoning policy does not provide for land uses changes of this nature without substantial higher degree of affordability or other compelling public interest. In addition, the applicant has declined to commit to the construction of this off-site 10-foot side path connection as requested by staff. This path would help close a critical pedestrian infrastructure gap and is necessary to meet the transportation and connectivity goals outlined in the town's transportation plan. The lack of commitment to this improvement further limits the project's ability to align with adopted policies. The proposed building elevations also do not fully comply with section 9.3.4 of the Unified Development Ordinance, which clearly states define invisible customer entrances. Design revisions have not adequately addressed the requirement, and based on these factors, the proposed rezoning is not consistent with adopted land use and transportation plans and does not provide sufficient public benefit to justify the requested land use change, and therefore is not reasonable nor in the public interest. I do want to add that during the review process and even now tonight, we welcome the applicant and the property owner to participate in the town's upcoming comprehensive plan update, where they can provide input and recommendation of what that area should look like going forward with the comp plan in case they are at a disagreement with what staff has presented tonight. But that's exciting because that is officially kicking off today. The public engagement portion of it will be scheduled much later down the road, and we'll be able to provide that in all of our websites and public noticing as such as that. The applicant is here to answer questions, and if you have any questions for staff is here to answer them as well.
Thank you so much, Bruce.
Yeah.
Do you have any initial questions? I had one, but you answered it. So if there are no questions, we will open the public hearing, and with that, allow the applicant to come up and speak. Mark Frederick, is that right? Did I say it correctly?
Yes, you did.
Okay. You have a handful of folks here with you, so you have 9 minutes to speak.
Great,
Okay.
thank you.
All right, thank you.
Good evening, Chair and members of the Planning Board. I'm Mark Frederick with Parker Poe, Adams and Bernstein at 301 Fayetteville Street in Raleigh. I'm here on behalf of the applicant, Wood Partners. I'm joined tonight by Caitlin Shelby with Wood Partners and Bob Zumwalt and Kevin Dean with Kinley Horn and Ryan Fisher with BGE. We did hand out some sheets to help guide you as we walk through this brief presentation. But again, the purpose of this rezoning is to allow an attainable apartment community. This is a specific product that Wood Partners is proposing for their first project in Apex. Wood Partners has delivered several other projects in the Triangle that have had an affordable housing component. So this project does include a commitment to double what the town of Apex's current housing affordability policy does recommend. And I'll let Bob and Caitlin speak to this in a little more detail, but I did want to highlight a few details about the case that staff did not cover.
Mr. Frederick, I'm sorry, can I just pause you for just one moment? If you are speaking for the group, you have 9 minutes, and so Caitlin would not be speaking.
Could I keep my statements to 3 minutes and then she'd have 3 minutes?
Absolutely.
Okay, yeah. Thank you.
Apologize for interrupting.
No worries. So we do recognize that planning staff's evaluation of this case is based on the town's current comprehensive plan. So we understand that a proposal that is inconsistent with the land use map is going to be deemed, it's going to be recommended for denial by default. However, there are several aspects of this proposal that make the non-residential uses on this specific site just not viable. And there are also several reasons why residential uses are more reasonable and in the public interest. So on the first sheet of the handout you have, you can see that there's a very limited amount of frontage on Jenks Road. This limits the site's visibility and ability to provide direct access to the site from Jenks Road, which is it has the higher volume of trips on that street. So any non-residential uses will also have to compete with the uses along Highway 64, as well as other sites along Jenks Road that do have direct access. Just like the property across Wimberley Road that does have that direct access. So the most likely outcome for this site is if non-residential uses are placed on this site, is that it would most likely just remain vacant, or you'd get a use that is just not desirable or compatible with the surrounding area and the residential character of that area. And if you look at the second page of that handout, to that point on compatibility with the surrounding area, which was a point of discussion with staff throughout the process, this project does include a 3-story height restriction along Wimberley Road that addresses that transition from the single-family homes to this site, and then the remainder of the site going up to 4 stories. I did want to touch briefly on the proposed density, which is consistent with the project to the southwest. So while it may be more dense than the projects across Wimberley, it is in fitting with the character of the area in general. But also that height transition and the form of buildings, that form of building transition, there's another piece to that, and which is a transition in uses. We do think this is a better transition in uses to the more rural character to the north and this site versus if commercial uses were placed on this site. You'll also see the height designations with any non-residential district could be significantly higher as well. So while we do recognize the competing interests for the town in wanting more commercial space on this site, there also is a adopted policy for wanting more affordable housing units. Based on the challenges with this specific site that face commercial uses, we do think the highest and best use of this site is to contribute to the affordable housing stock in Apex. So with that, I'll turn it over to Bob Zumwalt.
I'm so sorry. Just to clarify, you are the speaker for the 9 minutes, of which you have 5 minutes remaining.
so I can't turn it over to Bob at this point. Okay. Well, I'll.
But we will absolutely open it for questions, but this is an effort to be equitable for our residents as well as.
Okay. Yeah. No, that's perfectly fine. I can walk you through the rest of the slides here. So the third slide has an overall layout of the surrounding area as well as that future land use map, which, as you can see, there is a substantial amount of non-residential designations in this area surrounding this site. We really wanted to provide a frame of reference for how this site compares to the large area of non-residential designation. So this site is about 13 acres, but in the surrounding area, based on the future land use map, you've got about 1.2 million square feet of non-residential designation. That doesn't take into account 1.9 million square feet, yes. And that doesn't take into account the requirement for 33% of each of these sites to be designated as commercial with those 3 land use map designations. And again, for frame of reference, Beaver Creek is about 935,000 square feet of non-residential. So there's a substantial amount of non-residential space left over, even if this site is amended to residential. Turning to the next slide, this does cover that affordable housing commitment. This project proposes a maximum of 300 units. Again, this is for an attainable housing project, but in terms of zoning restrictions, we've included 10% of those units to be restricted, half at 80% and half at 100% AMI. This is double what the town's affordable housing incentive policy recommends. So we've doubled that, and we are requesting, based on that incentive, to amend that land use map to allow this project. And finally, the last slide. This is some more information on what Wood Partners would be proposing here or building here. This is their attainable housing example. It's really geared at providing a product that is more affordable, but not necessarily restricted affordable, which we believe is a really good product for this area, just based on the other offerings in the area that aren't so attainable. So with that, we're happy to answer any questions, and we do have our full team here to answer any of those questions. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I do not have anyone else signed up. If there's anybody else in the audience who'd wish to speak, please feel free to come up. Okay. With that, I will close public hearing and bring it back to the committee for discussion and possible motion. I also know that we have staff and the applicant here who are willing to answer questions.
I have a question for the applicant. So that off-site sidewalk connection, are there any technical challenges associated with why that is not going to be done, or is it just a cost thing, or?
It's partly cost, partly some challenges. That parcel is owned by the town, and I believe the town does have some plans for that parcel. So there would need to be some coordination there, but also the cost. This is trying to achieve one of the town's interests in delivering affordable housing. So any offsite commitments like that really impacts the ability for Wood Partners to deliver something like this.
Yeah, I get that. I'm just I don't know. I see the amount of density proposed, which I'm okay with. I think that it's a good use of land, but when you have that density and trying to encourage walkability, and you have Sweetwater right there to the south, filling that pedestrian gap would be ideal to help promote that, because I could just see people speeding down Jenks Road, and then you have people just walking in the gutter or walking on the curb, and it's an accident waiting to happen.
Understood. There is a pedestrian connection on the other side of the street, but we understand the desire to fill those gaps. So it's something we can certainly evaluate again and take a look at. Yeah.
Thank you.
questions from the committee?
Question, the reduction in parking, what was the thinking around reducing the number of parking spaces?
I believe it's just based on the unit mix, and parking it to what Wood Partners has seen in their other projects. But, yeah, Caitlin Shelby with Wood Partners can probably address that better.
Yeah, thank you very much. Caitlin Shelby, I'm Managing Director with Wood Partners. And great question with respect to the parking. So we believe it fits squarely within what the market requires. We're not assuming that there's any fewer cars here, given that it's an attainable project, than any other type of apartment project we would build. But we do believe that reduced rate sufficiently satisfies the parking needs that we're seeing across the triangle today. And so that was the justification essentially for the reduction there.
Thank you.
I have a question as it relates to the 10% set aside. That's for a 15-year term.
Correct.
So what about the half at 80% and half at 100%? Is that termed as well, or what does that look like?
That's right. I believe how that would work is the term it would remain 50% at 80% and 50% at 100% for that same 15-year term.
Just 15 years.
Correct.
So I will make a statement. I hear the competing interests and the desire to meet some of the competing interests. And this committee definitely struggles with many of those competing interests of trying to meet the needs for affordable housing and attainable housing, as well as meet many of the requirements set aside by the UDOs. And I think when I look at this comprehensively, it misses the mark for me in many of the ways that the staff has recommended, from the transition to, and I think this is one of those things where if I understand what the market needs are, or what the market demands and asks for across the triangle. We are not special snowflakes in Apex. However, we are the peak of good living, and we come with different market desires. So what is tolerated in other communities, the stair-stepping of the stories, is less tolerated here. Now that is, again, something that absolutely needs to be discussed as we talk about that competition for affordable housing. But at the moment, the lack of parking and the lack, the challenges around the school, meeting the school needs, and some of the inability to come to the table with pieces like that connecting piece are really, really key pieces for me, which makes me go, this isn't quite there, and I wonder if there is some room. So I would stand with staff on this, and and I should also add, for me, my Bible coming into this room is always the 2045 land use map, and this is completely inconsistent with that. So I would say for me, this would be a no, but with the hopes that, and I appreciate staff's willingness to say, hey, come to this conversation. I think that there's space for this to come together. That's where I'm standing at the moment. Curious where other board members are standing.
I have two questions. Connectivity on the Jinx Road, I'm assuming, probably Russell, since you're in the crowd, that must be a no only because of the proximity of Wimberley Road and Jinx. We're not going to be able to provide an access for the south side entrance or exiting.
And just for clarification, you're asking about the side path extension that we requested?
No, sir. This is, if we were to try to provide some sort of entrance off of Jinx Road instead of everything coming off of Wimberley, I'm assuming just the proximity to where it would lay out. It just wouldn't work.
Correct, yeah, we don't recommend access
Right.
directly to Jinx, that's correct. We did recommend the side path extension to fill that gap, but we did not recommend additional access.
Okay, how far off? I mean, have you looked at how much distance do we need from Wimberley Road if we were to have, say, a part of the Apex parcel to be able to make that work?
So it's a good question. Typically, for a major thoroughfare like that, we'd be looking at 1,000 feet of spacing for a full movement intersection. A right in, right out might be as close as 300 feet. So you'd probably be looking at something like a right in, right out. And currently, where Apex, I believe, is looking at utility uses on that parcel. There may be opportunities for subdivision recombination, but I'm not aware of what those discussions are at this point.
Okay.
Thank you. Thanks.
Second question is, looking at the site layout now, the south side apartment buildings are not hatched. Okay, meaning that these will be the full 4 stories, is that correct?
Yes, it's 4 stories everywhere except for that hatched area, which is the 3 stories, stepping down. Yep.
Okay, so on the Jinx, fronting Jinx Road and at the intersection of Wimberley and Jinx will be the full height.
It could be 4 stories there, yes. Yeah, that is consistent with the project just south of there, across Jinx Road.
Can I ask about the building elevations not complying with UDO? It seems like low-hanging fruit. So is there...
Yeah, thank you. So staff did have comments in our initial application regarding the elevations of the buildings, and so we did go back and make a number of modifications to those as well. And admittedly, part of making this project 100% attainable leaves us a little bit limited in terms of making the exteriors of the building extremely articulate or intricate, excuse me. And so admittedly, we're working to strike a balance of creating brand new apartment homes that are, have great appliances, great finishes, beautiful to look at, but still cost effective to the point where we can offer them to folks in those middle income across 100% of the apartment communities, not just those income restricted. And so with that, it's a little bit of a balancing act, but we did make modifications throughout the process to help alleviate some of staff's concerns as well.
Other points of discussion, questions, or a motion?
I'm not 100% sold on this for similar reasons as you mentioned earlier, and particularly the last comments too about, finishes and just like the outside exterior. I think there's something to be said to be like good neighbors. And when I'm sure the interiors of these are going to be absolutely beautiful and they look beautiful from these pictures, but from just like the outside appearance of what looks to be just like a little, I don't even know what that is, like a small little roof over a door, I think a little bit more could be done to help address that concern with the UDO. So yeah, I'm not really for this.
You
I feel
waiting
like
on
you
me?
have something to say.
I'm sitting here loaded. I'm ready. I would like to say I like the project. Aside from being not compliant with the 2045 land use map, that being set aside, do I believe that this is a better use of the property? Yes, I do. There is maybe off 123 acres of office commercial. That's a lot in this area. The affordable housing certainly is higher than we've seen in a long time. We do have affordable housing plans, and we need those for our firefighters, our policemen, and for our town. We do need that. Do I think that this is better use for residential? Yes. Do I like affordable housing? Yes, I do. That being said, the whole right side of Jinx Road all the way to 64 is office, employment, commercial services. Some of the landowners that are in the audience tonight have been held up by not being able to do residential. So would it be fair? Would it be fair? You know, I get it. Do I like, is this better residential? Absolutely. In my opinion, yes. But as of now, it's not that way. And would it be fair to the neighbors down the street who are still under this office employment commercial services are being held by that standard? So yeah, I wish, do we have an idea when the comprehensive plan for the update, when that is supposed to start? I said, is that started yet?
I know the misses the mark for me just a little, just.
Yeah, it's just.
So we are starting the comp plan update now. We are under contract, but it's an 18-month at least process. So it is a lengthy process. It will take some time.
Sure. Thank you. Thank you, Shannon. So that's where I'm at. Do I believe that the apartment buildings and the affordable housing plan fits this property better? Yes, I do. I do. Is it fair to the neighbors down the street who've been trying to do the same thing? No.
I don't think I've seen this committee this torn before. Is there other comments or possible motion?
I mean, I'm familiar with the work that you all do. It's a beautiful product. I think the design elements and the I think when you have this much density, connectivity is critical. So, I mean, I understand this offsite. That is a big investment, but given the size of the project and number of people, as much connectivity as we can provide is critical. So those are the two elements of the overall proposal. I'm like Keith, you know, it is a switch of land use, but that would also be a lot of office employment that maybe isn't supported in this direction. So yeah, I'm like Tina said, very split right here.
Would it be okay for staff to clarify something that the applicant presented?
Yes, please. And while Amanda's coming up, I'll just say, we can also make, just a reminder that we can make a recommendation to the town council with any concerns that we would like addressed. So just keep that in mind as we're listening. Thank you.
So I'm looking at this map, which is I think page 3 in the packet the applicant provided, that gave a lot of these tan and red areas labeled as non-residential. Nearly all of the tan areas are designated on the 2045 land use map as mixed use with potential for high density residential. And in fact, we already have a school here, approved apartments here, approved apartments here. The potential zoning allows apartments here. We have apartments right here. And so it's not all non-residential either on the land use map or approved. This area up here also is designated as mixed use. So and until there's interest in that area, we don't really know what that area wants to be. But there is the potential it would include, it could include a mix of apartments along with office and retail uses. So any area that's designated as mixed use in our land use map, we shoot for a minimum of 30% non-residential, which means the rest could be residential. So just wanted to add a bit of clarification on the future land use that was presented.
Thank you so much.
That was what I was going to explain. When he had, I'm Bob Zumwalt with Kimley Horn. So if you look in those yellow areas, what I did, Amanda, just it's details that I was going to present. I took the total area, took away 25% for RCA, then only took 1/3 of that area left as non-residential. And then I used an average of 10,000 square feet per acre, which is generally an acceptable rate of non-residential. I do a lot of these projects. That's how I came up with those numbers. So I wasn't assuming the whole area was. I was just assuming 1/3 of it, and that even takes out RCA. So, okay, thanks.
Additional questions, comments, or motion?
I don't particularly care for the project at the location where it's at. I think access, off of Jinx Road needs to be something that needs to happen there. The density's high. I just think that the location of it, I think there's probably other places where this type of product could go that could serve the community better. I don't like the fact that south side Jinx Road, hitting on the 64, you have to turn right out right now on Jinx Road, then turn back around. So it's going to put everybody on Jinx Road, again, going the same direction, traveling back east. You're going to come down Wimberley Road. Most people aren't traveling north on Wimberley Road to go anywhere. They're going to come back down the Jinx. So I just think from a traffic standpoint too, I just think that Jinx connection would be key if it was a viable project. So for me on this one, I understand what we're doing as far as affordability and trying to bring down finishes and other things to try to make it more affordable. But just the location where it's at, I just don't think it quite fits that spot. So for me, I'm a no.
That sound like a motion?
I can make a motion. I'll make a motion to, let's see here, where are we at, CZ? Deny rezoning case 24 CZ 11. Tim?
Daniel, second.
All right, there was a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Okay. That does not pass unanimously.
So I do need to go through the planning board report, excuse me, to town council to ensure that we have the reasons for denial. So it was inconsistent with the 2045 land use plan. That's number one. Number two is compatibility for its proposed location. Is it inconsistent or consistent?
It was inconsistent, and transportation was another one.
No, this is just the proposed location. The transportation plan, they technically were consistent with because the sidewalk is off-site. So the first thing was 2045 land use plan. The second one, is just compatibility. The proposed conditional zoning use appropriateness for its proposed location and compatibility with the character of surrounding land uses. I need you to say if it's consistent or inconsistent.
Inconsistent.
The next one is zoning district supplemental standards. I don't know if they weren't applicable, so we don't need to do that one. Design minimizes adverse impact. This would be the visual impact of proposed use on adjacent lands, avoidance of significant adverse impacts on surrounding lands regarding trash, traffic, service delivery, parking and loading, odors, noise, glare, and vibration, and not create a nuisance.
Diane, is this a new?
No, you all just don't do denials very often. It's not new.
Okay,
we've done it before.
It's been a while, okay.
It's been a while, because usually it's in favor. It might be a split vote, and then you all do your individual, but this is actually group. We need to state whether it's consistent or inconsistent.
Okay,
and number 4 is consistent. I would say number 4 is consistent.
Okay. Yeah. And if anyone doesn't agree, speak up, because we're moving to the next one for each one. Design minimizes environmental impact. Let's see, environmental impacts of protection from significant deterioration of water and air resources, wildlife habitat, scenic resources, and other natural resources.
Consistent.
All right, I gotta get to the next page. Impact on public facilities. Avoidance of having adverse impact on public facilities and services, including roads, potable water, wastewater facilities, parks, schools, police, fire, and EMS.
Consistent.
Inconsistent.
She said
inconsistent.
I said inconsistent.
Okay. Yeah, if you don't speak up, then we'll move on. So
inconsistent.
Okay. Health, safety, and welfare. The district's uses effect on health, safety, or welfare of the residents of the town or ETJ.
Consistent.
Detrimental to adjacent properties, whether it's substantially detrimental to adjacent properties. And if it's not, it's consistent. That's how we've always reported it. If it's not detrimental.
Not detrimental, consistent.
Does not constitute a nuisance or hazard. I know this is it seems like it's duplicative. Nuisance or hazard due to traffic impact or noise, or because of the number of persons who will use the conditional zoning district use.
Inconsistent.
Yeah, that's inconsistent.
Okay. Other relevant standards of the ordinance includes layout and general development characteristics. That would include architecture.
Inconsistent.
That's all I need. Thank you so much.
All right, thank you. Moving on to item number 3, Shannon presenting on the possible hearing and motion regarding amendments to the thoroughfare and Collector Street plan map of the Apex Transportation Plan.
Okay, thank you. These amendments are associated with rezoning case 24 CZ16, the Lawrence property PUD. That's the next item on your agenda. So we would recommend holding both public hearings and then voting on the transportation plan amendments. So just to orient you to the exhibit, we're focused on this future major collector street, the green and white line here. That's just north of Olive Chapel Road, east of New Hill Olive Chapel Road, west of the American Tobacco Trail. The rezoning case, the associated rezoning case is mostly this parcel here. It also goes south of Olive Chapel Road. And the proposed amendment is to realign the future major collector street from where it's shown with these X's on our transportation plan now, just slightly to the west. And it is an amendment because it would also change the alignment on this adjacent property that's not part of the rezoning case. The applicant has proposed this amendment because they are also proposing to move some historic resources, some buildings on this property to the south side of Olive Chapel Road. More information about that will be presented with the rezoning case, but there was coordination included in your staff report. They are working with Capital Area Preservation and the State Historic Preservation Office on that proposal. Our transportation plan alignment curves to avoid those resources. If they are moved, that presents an opportunity to look at a different alignment. They are proposing the shift because of the topography and also because it works better for the layout that they're proposing. Our Water Resources Department did indicate there's a potential for some additional wetland impacts with the shift to the west, but they did not have major concerns. Traffic staff did not have concerns. Police and fire were supportive. Parks and Rec was supportive. And planning staff do also recommend approving this amendment if you are also going to approve the rezoning case. I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
All right, I think we're set, so we'll move on to, is it 4? Is that what, does this accompany 4? Yes.
Sorry, you do need to have the public hearing.
Public hearing for
The
transportation plan along with the public hearing for 4 or separate?
So you have 2 separate public hearings. So open your public hearing for the transportation plan amendment, close it, then hear June's presentation of the rezoning, have that public hearing, and then vote on each individual request.
And before you open the public hearing, I believe there may have been someone who wanted to be recused on this one.
I recuse myself from number 3 and number 4 related to
Yes,
this.
number 3 and number 4, correct? Okay, and
I'll go ahead and do that.
and then we're going to also discuss removing Jeff from number 4.
That's
So
correct.
correct. So for number 3, since we're going to open the public hearing, can I have a motion? Tim, I think you just did. To
Tim makes
recuse
a
Alyssa.
motion to recuse Alyssa for item number 3, long range planning for Thoroughfare and Collector Street.
3 and 4, right?
And 4, 24 CZ 16.
All right.
Keith, second.
All right, all of those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, with that, I'm gonna open public hearing for the item number 3, the thoroughfare and Collector Street plan. Thank you. All right. With that, I have the applicant here. Oh, this is number 4. Do we have number 3? I'm sorry.
They're on the same page. They should be. That's number 3.
This is number 4.
Not possible. It's up to y'all. Okay, very good. Thank you. All right. Is anybody here to speak specifically on item number 3? Okay. Thank you. Did you sign up?
Yes, Letitia Shapiro from Morningstar Law Group.
Thank
I'm just here on behalf of the applicant. Just wanted to let you know that we're here to answer any questions with regard to that transportation plan amendment. But we can move on to 4. Yep.
Do you have anything to speak on it? No. Okay.
Thank
very
you.
good. Thank you. Does anybody else interested in speaking on? Okay. With that, I'm going to close the public hearing, and we're going to hold the vote. And June, you're going to come and present on.
I'd like to make a motion to recuse Jeff.
Well, let me make a couple of statements. I talked with the town attorney on Friday. Capital Preservation is potentially the recipient of the historic house that's going to be moved. She said it's sort of a gray area because I'm a board member, but I'm not a paid board member. And we, as a board, haven't discussed this property yet. And so I have no financial gain either way, whether it's approved or denied. So she said that it's best to bring it up to y'all. And if you choose to accuse me, that's fine. If you don't, then that's fine. I'm impartial either way.
Okay. With that, how does the committee feel with recusing or not recusing? Not recuse? Did I hear recuse? Not recuse. Okay. Anybody in favor of recusing? Okay. Jeff, thank you for stating it,
Yes.
just for the record,
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
that the public
Want to
is
be
aware.
transparent.
And even though you do not need to be recused. Okay, with that, June, I'm going to hand it over to you for presentation on C24CZ16, the Lawrence Property PUD.
Good afternoon. The project, as you said, was located in the western edge of town. This property is one parcel. It's located on the north and south side of Olive Chapel Road. The current zoning is Wake County Residential 80W. And then the surrounding zoning and land use is planned unit development. This is the retreat at Cedar Crossing subdivision, and then Wake County Residential 80W along here, single family large lot. And then to the west and to the east, or the west, east and west, is Wake County Residential 80W, and that's also single family large lot on this side. And then to the south is Wake County Residential 80W, and that is the North Carolina Wildlife Resource Conservation Game Land. So it's open space down in this whole area. Proposed zoning, it's a planned unit development conditional zoning. The current land use is rural density residential. The proposed rezoning to PUD includes a maximum density of 1.6 units per acre. And so if the properties are rezoned as proposed, the 2045 land use map will automatically be amended to low-density residential north of Olive Chapel Road, and then rural transition residential south of Olive Chapel Road. The existing conditions, I'm going to go through the north of Olive Chapel Road first, and this is where the H.T. Lawrence farmhouse is, and then there's several outbuildings. There's 3 ponds, and then on this area to the west is a stream that's bisecting the property. And then, of course, mature trees and then open field. South of Olive Chapel Road is mature trees, stream along the west and east property line, and then open field. There is a single-family residential house with a couple of outbuilding structures that is not historic. And so Wake County Public School System indicates that elementary and high schools within this current assignment area are anticipated to have insufficient capacity for future students, and the school expansion or construction within the next 5 years may address concerns at the high school level. And the applicant conducted 3 neighborhood meetings, and the neighborhood reports are attached into your staff report packet. So the proposed plan unit development is a project that's 41.02 acres, and the uses are single family, accessory apartment, park active and passive, recreation facility private, and utility minor. Maximum number of units proposed is 57. It's 1.6 units per acre. Minimum lot size is 7,500 square feet, and a maximum building height of 35 feet. So the UDO does not require RCA for developments that are 2 units per acre or less. However, the proposed project is providing 40% RCA, that's 14.3 acres of the project site. And so looking at the buffers, so the proposed is 20-foot type B, as in Bravo, and then thoroughfare buffer is a 50-foot type B, looking more rural into the western as we head towards Chatham County. The thoroughfare buffer along the historic house parcels, since they are proposing to move that historic house on the south side, that would have a type E, so it's more open looking at the house. Thoroughfare buffer adjacent, there's a play lawn that they're anticipating to put here. That would be a 30-foot type B, and then the major collector would have a 10-foot type A on both sides. So the PUD plan includes 14 architectural conditions. A couple examples are the house entrances shall have covered porch, limitation on the garage with percentage for the front facade, so it's not all garage. And then the garage shall not protrude more than 5 feet from the front facade or porch. The project was reviewed by the Environmental Advisory Board and includes 19 environmental zoning conditions. Example of a couple of those are pre-configured with conduit for solar energy system, replacement of large and small trees, and install warm season grasses. So the PUD will comply with built upon area structural SCMs and riparian stream buffer requirements. So looking at the Lawrence property with the single family and a couple of the outbuilding structures, they are on the study list for the National Register of Historic Places. The structures on the study list are located right off here, so distance off of Olive Chapel Road. Capital Area Preservation conducted a site visit and completed a historic resource report, and that's included in attachment 1 with your packet. The North Carolina State Historic Preservation Office, known as SHPO, shows the property H.T. Lawrence Farm was placed on the state inventory list and Wake County study list for National Register of Historic Places. So the applicant, CAP, and the town and SHPO staff had held a meeting to discuss the farm and possibly moving it to the south, and that's also included in your packet in attachment 2. And so this is where, here's the protected open space, and then they would be moving the historic house with a couple of the outbuilding structures. Here's the existing home. So the PUD does include, in coordination with Capital Area Preservation and SHPO, the PUD proposes to preserve, relocate, and donate the historic resources pending determination by SHPO and/or CAP, and include a land donation agreement. So looking at the transportation infrastructure, they are including the Olive Chapel Road improvements, and that's a rural two-lane thoroughfare with a 6-foot paved shoulders planned for future bike lanes with a 10-foot side path on the north side, and then on the south side would be the sidewalk, a 5-foot sidewalk. Also included that is that developer shall provide an eastbound left turn lane on Olive Chapel Road at the major collector street, and with a minimum storage length of 100 feet plus 50-foot deceleration length and a 100-foot taper, and required transitions subject to Apex and NCDOT review and approval. And they also are including the major collector that Shannon was talking about earlier. Development shall, we looked at this area, there is a stub street that they will need to connect up with, that's Adriatic Way. So we do have a condition because we looked at a stub street here going west, but there's this stream right here with a buffer, and that's crossing the stream with a buffer, and there is a greenway here. The greenway continues up here, but this is just for future. This greenway's not here yet. So crossing the stream, the buffer, and the greenway. So in looking at this, we were just having it connect up with the Adriatic Way. It includes development shall propose an intersection within 100 to 150 feet of the existing terminus of Adriatic Way where drivers will be required to turn. So we anticipate them just having a street along here and then turning and or stop, and that would be subject to approval of the town of Apex. So you can see on here is our proposed access points. The relocation of that major collector road will create a disconnect for the existing, you can see right here, it's existing gravel road. And so we have included a condition with the staff recommendation that the applicant shall work with the property owner, provide a minimum 20-foot wide gravel road connection with the major collector stub street to the existing Lawson Lane prior to the construction plan approval. This connection will be made once construction of the major collector is complete, and at no time prior to reconnection will access to Lawson Lane be completely cut off to the public road. And the PUD plan is proposing 3 residential affordable housing at 135% AMI, and that's for a period of 30 years. The Parks, Recreation, and Cultural Resource Advisory Commission made a recommendation for a fee in lieu dedication for a maximum of 57 single-family units. And with that, staff planning recommends approval with the following condition regarding the gravel road connection with the existing Lawson Lane. Prior to construction plan approval, making that connection at the construction major collector is complete, and that reconnection will access to Lawson Lane to be not to be completely cut off to the public road. And with that, the applicant is here. If you have any questions, or happy to answer any of your questions.
Thank you. June, do you, I'm sorry, does anybody have any questions for June?
I do. And you may have covered this and I may have missed it. Why 20 foot wide? I'm just curious. Isn't that only 60? Is it for utility former access, or if it's for road access? So I'm just curious. Why 20 foot?
Looking at that existing gravel road, it looked about 20 feet, and I think we're just doing for fire or passability.
Into Lawson?
Mm-hmm.
Understood.
And it would be temporary.
Understood. Thank you. Thank you.
All right, if there are no additional questions for June, thank you. I'm going to open the public hearing portion. And I have the applicant, and it looks like you've come with a couple of folks. So you have 9 minutes.
So I'm going to go ahead and just take my 3.
You're going to take your 3 and then
Yep.
hand
Yep.
it off?
Letitia Shapiro, Morningstar Law Group. Thank you so much for taking the time and hearing us out tonight. Joining me tonight is Mark Bowles from Baker Residential and Bob Zumwalt from Kimley Horn, and they're here to answer any questions that you may have. June did a great job of giving you the details, so I don't want to reiterate anything that she had said, but I just wanted to let you know that I want to thank staff for working as hard as they did to get us here today. And I wanted to also let you know that we had worked with staff and the neighbors, specifically the neighbors at the retreat at Cedar Crossing. And additionally to the required neighborhood meetings, we had an additional meeting with those particular neighbors, and we wanted to hear their concerns about traffic. And the applicant was not required to do a TIA, and there is a trip generation that was part of this application, but we did share that with the neighbors, and we wanted y'all to know that. And the neighbors did request, and we offered a condition that was specific to traffic calming measures, but we had learned that the UDO really doesn't really like to do those without some kind of specific warrants. So we worked on that additional condition with staff that would either slow or stop traffic at that terminus of Adirondack Way. So we just wanted to let you know our engagement with the neighbors, and that they did have concerns with traffic, and we're happy to have any questions or answer any questions that you might have this evening. Thank you.
I have Frank. Frank, I apologize. I'm not going to be able to make out your last name. Thank you for coming out.
Hi, my name is Frank Aegis. I'm a resident of the retreat at Cedar Crossing. I'm also on the HOA board, the retreat. Over the past 6 months, I've been in discussions with the developers of the Lawrence Farm project, and I've also engaged with the Town of Apex staff regarding the plans for this new subdivision. The proposed development of single-family homes does fit well with the character of the area, and we don't have any issue with that. However, the retreat residents, especially those on the connecting road, Adirondack Way, are extremely concerned about the potential negative impacts with respect to traffic. The major roads surrounding the developments, Olive Chapel, New Hill, and Route 64, are today, increasingly congested. With the 2024 opening of the TMSA High School, morning and afternoon traffic backups around the retreat and Deer Creek are really, really detrimental. It can easily add 20 minutes to get out of our subdivision just to get onto 64. In the coming years, NCDOT has planned major projects in and around this area. They include the realignment of the intersection of Olive Chapel and New Hill, the widening of 4 lanes of New Hill from Olive Chapel to Route 64, adding a roundabout at Amberlight and New Hill, and the granddaddy of them all, the conversion of the intersection of 751 and 64 to an interchange. Add to that the construction associated with the Apex Gateway, and this area, traffic-wise, is going to be really, really stressed. We feel with the new road from this new subdivision connecting into Adirondack, that westbound drivers on Olive Chapel and northbound drivers on New Hill will likely take the new Lawson Lane connection and go through our subdivision in Deer Creek to get to 64 and to get to the school. So we're going to see a tremendous increase in traffic in our subdivision. We should be planning for this. We should know that it's going to happen, right? There's going to be lots of construction, and people are going to seek alternative roads. And that planning requires data, and that's in short supply. I repeatedly asked the developers and town staff for I guess I'm out of time, right?
I will ask you to wrap.
Right. What I want to say is we need a traffic study, and the town staff has said that the size of the subdivision doesn't require a traffic study, but that completely ignores the fact that most of the new traffic is going to be originate outside of the subdivision. So what I would urge that the requirement of a comprehensive traffic study be a part of the rezoning process. It is only with this understanding of the current patterns that we can properly plan for this and for the inevitable other future projects that are going to occur in the area. Thank you.
Ryan Fisher? Okay. Is there anyone else who wishes to speak on this project? Okay. If not, I will close public hearing and bring it back to the committee for discussion and possible motion. And I'd love to start with bringing up any information we can talk about around transportation, if that's possible.
Well, unrelated to the traffic impact analysis, connection to Adirondack Way is required by Unified Development Ordinance for connectivity. That's not an option. That's a requirement. Understand Frank's concerns about the future of Lawson Lane, the possibility of the high school. But the traffic impact analysis, what does that require? Like 50 homes or something like that?
Yeah, that's what I'm hoping. Would you be able to come up?
I want to say 50. Well,
and give some context to, I know I remember and don't definitely get it wrong. So if you could provide some context around traffic and the ability or inability to study. And
yeah, so with the traffic impact analysis, it's 1,000 daily trips or 100 peak hour trips is our requirement. So for single family, you'd have to be up to close to around 80 or 90 homes before you'd actually trigger that threshold. So part of the discussion is with the TIA, you're looking at intersection capacity, which typically looks at your major roadways, your thoroughfares. We're talking about neighborhood connections, like requirements for stub streets, these interconnected streets. A TIA is not necessarily going to show you recommendations for those type of connections. There's always a chance when you connect these local streets, there will be additional traffic, typically exchanged between neighborhoods that are trying to avoid some of these other major roadways. But we do have a traffic calming program, and we have warrants with that. So once roads are connected, neighborhoods can always come in and ask us to study it. We look at the volume, we look at the speed, we make recommendations. And with the changes adopted the previous year, the town now pays 100% of traffic calming measures on streets where they're warranted. What we don't want to do, and what it already says in the UDO, is when developments come in and provide connections, we don't want to preemptively put in traffic calming measures that may not be warranted. We do look at issues like where we make those connections. Is there a way not to exacerbate speeds through neighborhoods where we're making the connections, which here we've recommended a turn or a stop within a short distance. So really what we're talking about is, as the gentleman mentioned, is a potential for increased volume. But again, a TIA is not going to show a recommendation to make any changes to this neighborhood connection based on that.
Yeah. Any additional questions for Russell? I would, I know this is a continual conversation, so for folks in the audience, the traffic is unfortunately always a lagging indicator. and it is the last thing that gets addressed. And we know we are all driving these roads, and we hear from neighbors coming and speaking to the traffic concerns. So we all know it's a concern as residents, and we know it's a concern for you all. So hear that we take that seriously, and know that the staff is ready if there are concerns, and there needs to be, to respond to that. Unfortunately, it is a lagging indicator, and I might step out on a limb and say that those are tax dollars that are attempted to not be wasted. That's me stepping out on a limb, though. Discussion and possible questions. Questions and possible discussion.
Is there a time frame laid out for relocating the house after the rezoning is potentially approved?
Mark Bowles with Baker Residential applicant. I mean, it would be after construction documents are done, so several, probably close to a year away.
Okay.
Additional questions or possible motion?
I have a question out of more curiosity. I see where on the site plan looks like the existing ponds directly in the center are going to be removed. Are there any plans for that area, or is that just going to remain just kind of a grassy area?
Bob Zumwalt with Kimley Horn. One of the ponds, I don't have the plan up, but one of them you can see the northern one. Is it northern? I guess it would be the eastern one. There's a potential that when it's drained, maybe there'd be nothing in the bottom of it, but there's not going to be any more lots added. The one pond, the bigger one, that one, thank you. The bigger pond you can see here, that one would just be open space. So we're not going to go into this one. The only reason we made this pond yellow, because there is a chance there won't be anything in the bottom of it, because I think that one feeds the bigger one, and then the bigger one goes down to the floodplain. If that did come back as just high and dry land eventually, it would just allow maybe some of the lots to just get a little bigger. We're not adding any. It would just give them a little more breathing room. So does that help? Yeah.
I'm sorry. I don't even know if I closed public hearing. So if you could come and sign in, and then I will ask that if anybody else has any comments, please come and sign in, and then I will have to close public comment. Thank you. Yeah, you can sign in afterwards.
My name is Audrey Curley, and I'm a resident of Retreat at Cedar Crossing. And I think when we were talking about the traffic and the connection road between the neighborhoods, this is not a normal connection road, not when it leads to this school. I think that really needs to be taken into consideration. We've seen dramatic increase of, like Frank was saying, it takes us 20 minutes additional to get out of our neighborhood. So with that being said, I understand that connection roads through different neighborhoods in a normal situation, but I think the school definitely needs to be considered with this transportation. Thank you.
Could I have you sign? I'm sorry. Russell, do you have any comments for that? And I'm actually thinking about our neighbors in Haddon Hall and the school there, and some of the similar concerns.
In Haddon Hall, I guess what we're looking at is there was a direct assignment for a TIA to NC 55. So that intersection was studied, and the school was actually located on Blackburn Road. So, it was considered, but at the same time, the town came back and installed a speed hump following a study, a traffic calming study. So that's how that was evaluated.
Okay, so I'm thinking about it. I am relating the two. Understand that it is not similar, but I think in my head it is similar, and that we're having a school that is coming in. I know that traffic has increased considerably in that side of Haddon Hall, and I hear similar concerns from neighbors about a similar sort of pattern of taking 20 minutes to get out of the neighborhood, even with the traffic calming devices. And so I understand that Haddon Hall had that advantage of having the TIA because that was there. But again, I'm equating the two in that way, that there's a school coming, concerns, increased traffic already.
Correct, and that's part of the reason why we recommend these type of connections, because, I mean, they're talking about time to get out of their neighborhood, but providing this connection to the south also gives them another route to get in and out of the neighborhood, so that also should be considered. And the developer certainly could try to do a traffic impact analysis type study. They'd have to assume some reassignment of traffic to the neighborhood streets to see what volume they would estimate, but that's typically not how these studies are done, because what you're doing is you're basically making a lot of assumptions about pulling traffic off of the thoroughfares and routing it through the neighborhoods. And then again, I don't know that would result in any recommendations, because the traffic calming is typically based on a speed and volume study where you're recording actual speeds and actual volumes, so the TIA is not really going to reflect actual conditions at that time. So I understand what they're saying. I mean, they're obviously concerned about an increase in volume. So if it's just the increase in volume, the engineer could try to make some projections, but it's not going to capture the speed, which is typically what traffic calming is recommended for.
So what would your recommendation be, given, again, I'm thinking about, and Haddon Hall just happens to be on the top of my head, but I'm sure we have other neighbors with similar concerns, but what would your recommendation be, given, you know, we do have a bit of a precedence with traffic increase and continued longevity, right? That school's been there for a little while, so continued longevity in Haddon Hall traffic increases. We have seen traffic increases now, and absolutely understand that, you know, while we can say go another route, that also is, you know, for homeowners has not been the route that they've been going. So what would your recommendation be to maybe help? It sounds like we're not going to be able to get a recommendation, but maybe to help prepare for what is coming with the potential of a recommendation down the road. Help inform, give us some data.
Yeah, so the applicant could look at the existing volumes and make a recommendation concerning the amount of traffic they might predict would use this route. But I would leave it to them and their traffic engineer to determine exactly what the scope of that is. And we can certainly discuss with our staff if that's needed for town council. Staff's typical recommendation in this case would be, you know, to make the local connectivity and then to study it once it's connected, once it's built out, to determine actual speed, actual volume, to see if it warrants traffic calming or not, and if the HOA is in support of that, in which case the town would move forward with installation. But until that time, we just don't know how much traffic will be using that route, and you'd have to make a lot of assumptions for that. So it's not, in other words, it's not designated as a major route. It's not intended for that, but some people may use it for that.
And that type of study would again be an assumption, nothing you could base a recommendation off of until after build out.
Correct. Yeah, I mean, they might come back and say there's 100 extra trips using it in the peak hour, which again, that's not necessarily saying that traffic calming is warranted. It just may give you a volume assumption. But they'd have to do some counts, look at the network, make some assumptions, and then once they do that, it doesn't necessarily mean that people are going to believe what the results are being reported, because of those, someone's having to make assumptions to get to that. And you know, it's not typical like you have major thoroughfares where you're applying background volume and you know where the major roadways are, you know where the major connections are. These local connections are much more difficult to estimate.
And again, I'm really coming back to Haddon Hall and thinking about our Haddon Hall neighbors who are really struggling with that, with the school there, and so coming with, if there's more information, if we are clear about that it is just an estimation, if the applicant's even willing to entertain. So wanted to surface what potentials were, and I think we go into it eyes wide open.
And in the case of Haddon Hall, it was the school that was required to do the TIA. So in this case, it's a little bit different in the fact that it's a smaller neighborhood that doesn't meet the TIA threshold that's coming in, that's trying to in turn estimate what diverted trips are coming from the existing school. So it's a little bit different than the situation we had in Haddon Hall.
Russell, both Lawson and Transit will wind up on 64. That's the future for both.
Correct. Yes.
Okay. And the school is primarily going to be more off of Transit Trail. Is that correct? It's going to be more aligned with traffic in and off of Transit.
So the school future connection, if you want to bring up the map, which slide is that? If we can get back. I don't know if we've got an overall map here somewhere.
Thank you, right.
Is this all, do we have a transportation plan map or not? Like an overall? Okay. Yeah, so if you look at school, Transit Trail is actually east of Lawson Lane. So my understanding is there's local connectivity. So if you look at Olive Glen Drive, that would provide local connectivity to Lawson Lane, which gets up to 64. And the school, northeast of the school, there's also a stub in that area as well where they're building apartments. So the connectivity, so Lawson Lane's closer in proximity to the school for those connections, but there's also connections over to Transit Trail in the transportation plan. So I guess the message is once all this network is built out, all these local connections are made, there'll be a lot more options for people. It's just right now there's not nearly as many options because of, these facilities haven't been built yet.
I'm just kind of thinking the reverse effect might actually happen, right? So the build out of Lawson will provide connectivity for the backside of the neighborhood that's existing or being built out now, which a lot of times getting off on 751 or trying to go up to 64, right about the math and science school, you're having to cruise through the entire neighborhood versus now being able to go south, connect into this new development and hit onto Olive Chapel Road. Then you have an option to either go down 751 or go down Olive Chapel to then try to make your connections on the 64. So I actually think kind of the reverse could happen too. I don't think it's going to be all traffic coming off of Olive Chapel trying to cut into the back of the neighborhood. Some of that could happen, but it could also be, again, that connection that, well, the people in the back of the neighborhood might appreciate not having to go all the way through. So I can see it kind of going both ways from a connectivity standpoint. So
Wondering if the applicant, I know you all did some traffic analysis. Wondering if you have anything to add to the conversation. Let me put you on the spot.
No, not at this time, but thank you.
Not at this time, okay. All right, I will close public hearing just because I'm not sure if I did it before, and bring it back to the committee for discussion, possible motion.
See a lot of good in this one. I do like the fact that it is more compatible with the surrounding neighborhoods. I do like the fact that it's going to connect in some roads that need to be connected in. I do like the fact that we're not just tearing down a historical home, we're going to move it. So I think there's a lot of good in this. This one's probably a little more straightforward for me.
And less density as well.
Less density. And if another neighborhood comes in, guess what? They're going to connect to it. Was that a recommendation?
I will ask if that was a recommendation to please include item number 3 in your recommendation.
Not sure
Or
if
do
you
we
need
have
this,
to do
but
them
I want to
separately?
remind you about the first item.
That's,
Okay.
yep. Do we have to vote on them separately?
Yes,
Or can we-
and you need to vote on the transportation plan first so that this is consistent with the transportation plan.
So if that was a recommendation, please form your recommendation in terms of recommending item number 3 first.
Would we have support with item 4? Moving forward. Okay, then I'll make a motion then for item number 3, which is the transportation amendments. That's Tim.
Keith, a second.
All I have first and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, item 3 passes unanimously. And Tim, did you want to go ahead with recommendation for 4?
And I'll make a recommendation for approval for case 24CZ16, Lawrence Pub.
Can I amend to say with conditions?
We are allowed to say with, you can ask for a friendly amendment.
What would the condition be?
Moving the house.
Oh, yes.
Oh, is that not?
I
And to
thought that
provide a
is.
minimum 20-foot wide gravel.
Wasn't that proffered by the
I thought that was,
applicant already?
Just clarification.
Okay. That was offered up by the applicant already, correct?
June.
Moving of the home and putting the 20-foot connection. That was already offered
They're
up.
agreeable to the condition.
okay, so we need to add the condition because it wasn't, okay. Diane, did you get that?
I'm gonna, to recommend approval with additional condition presented by staff. Is that okay?
Yes.
Yes.
All in, was that, I got Tim as a first.
We don't have a second yet.
A second, Stephen.
All right, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Item number 4 passes unanimously with the conditions. And we are preparing to move on to item number 5. Before we begin item number 5, I'll look across the table and see if we need to take a break.
Also, could you bring me back?
Do we need to take a break?
Sure, 5 minutes.
Okay, first, can we bring back
Special,
Alyssa?
yeah.
Can I have a motion to bring back Alyssa, please?
I'll make a motion to bring Alyssa back in.
Thank you.
I could second. Sarah can second.
All right, Sarah, second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, can I have a motion for a 5-minute recess?
Motion for a 5-minute recess from Alyssa.
Sarah second.
That was Alyssa and Sarah. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Feeling a little gavel happy today. I'm going to call the meeting back to order with item number 5, possible hearing and possible motion regarding rezoning case 24CZ19, the New Hill Commons PUD. Bruce.
Thank you. All right, the proposed rezoning location here is in the southwest of town in the New Hill area, as marked here on the map. As you can see from the aerial image, there's a frontage located along New Hill Olive Chapel Road there, and also off of Old US 1 Highway. It's nestled in between another couple other planned developments. We have Utley Farms to the south, Belterra to the north, and Jordan Oaks to the west. As you can see, this is the current zoning map. We have, again, like I said before, we had some planned development conditional zonings all around it. Some of these parcels that are part of this rezoning are still actually under Wake County zoning, so these will also be coming in as an annexation should they be approved at the time. Here's a map just showing what the proposed area would look like. We'd have a pretty good coverage of the planned unit development conditional zoning stretching out pretty far across the area there. The 2045 land use map is showing this area, these parcels that are part of this rezoning, as low density residential. We have, let me point with the mouse here so you can see it, along New Hill Olive Chapel Road. We have commercial services and office employment over here. We have low density office employment in this dashed line here, and then we have low density residential as well. The applicant is proposing an amendment to the land use map as well. As you can see, it's changed. The office employment commercial services has extended to the northwest here. My mouse is pointing. We've lost the office and low density residential designation, and it's just become low density designation right here. Existing conditions, as you can see, there's 3 streams that run across this property. We have 2 here, 1 here. Each of them have a 100-foot riparian buffer associated with them. There are some existing structures on the site, some single-family homes here, here, over here, and I think there might be one more hidden up here as well. The overall size of the site is it's approximately 55 acres. There's about 10 parcels coming together as part of this rezoning as well. All right, the proposed site and layout plan here, as you can see, it's separated into 2 districts. We have a non-residential district and a residential district, kind of delineated here by this long stream, kind of separates them a little bit here. There is some proposed low-density residential to the north up here. There's locations and access that are going to be located off of, primary access is going to be located off of New Hill Olive Chapel Road. There's 2 entrances there, and then off of Old US Highway 1 right here, there's 2 as well, as long as some additional connections to the existing neighborhoods and the soon-to-be-built neighborhood Utley Farms here. The sewer connections, the proposed potential sewer connections exist to the north, these red asterisks here. So we have the Belterra connections. There's 1, 2, 3, 4 proposed connections, and I apologize, it's really hard to see. There are these little blue arrows that are on the map as well. There's 1 here, 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 and here. Those are potential water connections for the site as well. As I said, the primary access for the site will be off of the New Hill Olive Chapel Road. 1 will be a full movement. That'll be the most northern drive here. This will be a full movement. This here will be a right in, right out. And then located off Old US Highway 1, this will be a right in, right out as well. And then this one, where this is, there's an existing road called Lashley Way. This will also be a full movement access here. The connections, I just also wanted to point out that the town's transportation map shows a local connector that'll run from Pine, this road up here from Belterra all the way down here to Utley Farms. This will be connected and built as well. And this teal line here is a 10-foot side foot path that will also be constructed as part of this. There'll be internal connections between sidewalk and roads as well. This right here, these arrows represent there'll be a connection over this stream for vehicles and pedestrians as well in order to access this area, this part of the site, and this as well. The applicant's proposing a max density of 3 units per acre for the residential side. The lot sizes are going to be about 6,000 square feet. This is consistent with Utley and Belterra. There'll be a maximum of 2 stories, 36 feet in height. Maximum build area 70%, which is standard for us. For the non-residential side, a max height of 48 feet. Here for all that. The design guidelines have been provided for both residential and non-residential in your staff report. I did want to highlight that special notice in your staff report was given for the parcel that ends in 7861, which is going to be in this corner here. This parcel came in as a rezoning previously, and this parcel and part of this section here are all part of the New Hill Commons, New Hill Historic District, and so there's been special CAP approved design controls put on those as well. This approval, the one this was approved with, this was for a gas station, the design controls. They've basically taken the exact thing that they were approved for before and provided it as part of this document because they wanted to be part of this rezoning. So as far as RCA, the site shall comply with the RCA as laid out in the UDO. I did want to mention that this area is selected as part of our public art map. There shows a public art installation being somewhere present on this area. The developer has agreed to provide that, and they're also going to provide 3 additional amenities as laid out in the staff report as part of their conditions of approval. This project did go before our environmental board, and they had 20 suggestions. Out of the 20, the applicant has agreed to 12 of these. Some of these include items such as signs located at the SCM's RCA areas as well, installations of a pet station 1 per 25 residents, 70% of landscaping shall be native species, and the use of warm seasonal grasses to limit the need for irrigation, and more listed in the staff report as provided. The applicant held both required neighborhood meetings as required by our UDO. As far as affordable housing, the applicant has offered a minimum of 2 residential units that shall be sold as affordable housing units at 135% AMI, and the units shall remain affordable for a term of 20 years. This is less than what the housing policy typically calls for, which is 5% of the units itself. So that'd be closer to probably 6 units or at the maximum build out, which is what their fee in lieu for Parks and Rec was built at, was at 166. We'd be actually looking at closer to 8 or 9 affordable units that should be a part of this. The Parks and Rec and Cultural Resource Advisory Commission is recommending a fee in lieu for dedication for a maximum of 160 single family units. And staff recommends approval of this. And this, the statement of consistency and reasonableness. The 2045 land use map designates this project site as low density residential / office employment and office employment / commercial services. The majority of the proposed PUD is consistent with those land use classifications. The PUD proposes a land use map amendment modifying the current designations of office employment / commercial services, low density residential, and low density residential / office employment. These changes are aligned with the 2045 land use map's intent by supporting low density single family residential development where appropriate while expanding office employment / commercial services in the area. The proposed rezoning is reasonable and in the public interest because it will provide housing of a similar type and density as developed to the north and the south while providing for office and commercial uses to serve the proposed and existing residential development in the area. The proposed rezoning will also construct a local connector street with a 10-foot side path, and that will provide vehicle and pedestrian connectivity from Belterra through the subject property and Utley Farm subdivision to Old US Highway 1. And the applicant is here to answer questions, and staff is here as well for questions.
Any questions for Bruce?
I do have a question for Bruce.
There are some elevations, I apologize here. These are consistent. Just forgot to pull those up for you. Yes, sir.
The southeast parcel that is already rezoned currently for the office employment commercial services, looking at the different uses that are going into the rezoning, were there any restrictions when that rezoning happened, or were they clear for all?
For the southeast, there were restrictions placed actually as part of this rezoning. We looked for any type of commercial use that might be really intense, have a lot of intensity as part of it. So we did remove some of the things that would typically be allowed in a commercial district. As you can see in the proposed or permitted uses table, we had to go back and forth with the applicant a little bit to what we thought would be fitting for being so close to these neighborhoods.
Okay, so was there anything in the previous rezoning for that?
I unfortunately can't speak to what was in the previous rezoning. I just know that for this particular rezoning, we did go back and forth. The gas station service was permitted. There were some things like, I think we had some like inspection centers and some other maybe more intense, more vehicle focused uses that we're like, we don't, that's appropriate here.
Strike those, okay.
Yeah. Some of the commercial uses that have been suggested, there could be potential retail, grocery, there could be health services, spas, gyms, things like that.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, sir.
Any additional questions for Bruce? All right, thank you, Bruce.
Thank you.
With that, I will open the public hearing for item number 5. Thank you. Mark.
Good evening again, Chair and members of the Planning Board. I'm Mark Frederick with Parker Poe, Adams, and Bernstein at 301 Fayetteville Street in Raleigh. I'm here on behalf of the applicant, Barnett Properties, and I'm joined tonight by Alan Manus with Barnett Properties, Lyle Overcash with Kimley Horn, and Jeff Roach with Peak Engineering. The purpose of this rezoning is to allow a grocery-anchored retail center at the intersection of Old US 1 and New Hill Olive Chapel Road on the eastern portion of this site, which then transitions into a residential development on the western side, seamlessly integrating with the existing neighborhoods to the west and to the north. There is a need in this area of town for a grocery store. This is clear to Barnett Properties from a market perspective, but also clear from our discussions with neighbors throughout the process. The most common discussion point at our neighborhood meetings was, when is the grocery store coming? So what we're proposing is consistent with the town's plans, but also with the desires of the neighbors. This is also clear in the town's recently adopted Western Big Branch area plan. This site is directly adjacent to that area plan, but as part of that plan, the residents in the area expressed the desire for a grocery store and small-scale commercial services. So again, this project is consistent with the town's plans as well as the residents' desires in the area. We did complete a TIA for this project and incorporated those recommendations as zoning commitments. This includes 2 connections directly from Old US 1 and 2 direct connections from New Hill Olive Chapel Road. But we are also connecting directly to the north to 2 stub streets and directly to the south to the residential neighborhood to the south with 2 direct connections. This includes direct pedestrian connections to allow the residents of those adjacent residential neighborhoods, as well as these new residents, directly to the new commercial center here. And to speak to your question about the existing, the zoning for that parcel on the corner, this case is carrying forward everything from that previous case, including the architectural commitments and the use restrictions, and actually adding on to those use restrictions to prohibit certain noxious uses on this site. And finally, we do have one minor land use map amendment, but this really is just to clean it up, to follow the environmental features on the site to provide a natural transition with a stream between the residential and the non-residential areas. So, thank you.
And I think Mr. Manus was the only one else registered to speak. Is there anybody else who'd like to speak? Oh, only for questions, okay. Is there anybody else who'd like to speak on this rezoning case? All right, with that, I will close public hearing and bring it back to the board for discussion, questions, and possible motion.
I have one question. It says potential inclusion of Lashley Lane, discussions with New Hill Baptist Church ongoing for, I guess, acquiring part of their property.
Yeah, the right of way there, it's not the clearest right of way. So we're in discussions with the church, but the intent there is to provide public right of way and then allow a curb cut there for the church to provide access to the church property there.
Okay. Any potential for a fence between Lashley and the cemetery?
Yes, we have some conversations with the church. I believe there's a note in the PUD document that commits to a buffer there.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions or possible motion?
With the, so prior rezoning of that, again, that same southeast corner, that was potential for a gas station. So is this gonna be more like envisioning more of a grocery store with having that same gas station out there as well, or is that been nixed as far as the gas?
Yeah, the grocery store would essentially become one of the out parcels on this project. But it does allow, by that previous applicant, the property owner on that corner parcel, by incorporating with this rezoning, it allows for a little more organized development of this area. Whereas you might have previously a gas station, then poor integration with whatever else is proposed on this site. This allows us now to have a more comprehensive look at how it's all laid out.
Additional questions or possible motion?
I like it. Just start right there. Let's just start right. 3 units an acre, low density residential. What a better spot for that? Because our cherished New Hill, you know, that's a great place. I like the commercial component. I like the lower density. I like them working with the neighbors. Seems like they've done their homework before they got here.
Is that a motion?
I will make a motion to approve. My name is Keith. Rezoning case 24CZ19 New Hill Community Commons PUD.
Okay, thank you for your motion. Do I have a second?
I, Sarah So, will second that motion.
All right, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, that passes unanimously. I'm excited about a grocery store. All right, on to item number 6, that is public hearing and possible motion regarding rezoning case 24CZ22 Courtyards on Wimberley PUD. And June.
Okay, this project is located in the northwestern area of town, and the project includes 3 parcels totaling 23.98 acres. It's on the eastern side of Wimberley Road, between the American Tobacco Trail and Castleberry. This is Castleberry Road intersection. The current zoning is rural residential, and then Wake County residential 80. And the surrounding area to the north is rural residential. It's a vacant parcel. And to the south is Wake County residential 80W. That's large lot single family residential. To the east, of course, is the American Tobacco Trail conversation CB, which is, let me see, now I forgot what the conservation buffer, that's it, and Wake County residential 80W, rural residential and Wake County residential to the west, and that's large lot single family residential. So the proposed zoning is plan unit development conditional zoning, and the current land use is low density, and that would be rural density residential. If the properties are rezoned as proposed, the 2045 land use map would change over to low density residential. And then the existing site conditions, mature trees, there is a stream that's bisecting the property with a pond. Single family residential homes, and then on the south parcel there's an operating farm with several outbuilding structures. The applicant conducted 3 neighborhood meetings, and those are attached to your packet, and the school indicates that elementary, middle, and high schools within the current assignment area are anticipated to have insufficient capacity. And then for the school expansions or construction within the next 5 years, they may address those concerns at the middle and high school level. So the proposed PUD plan for the uses, it's single-family recreational facility, private park, active and passive accessory apartment, and utility minor. The proposed PUD plan includes an age-restricted community, and that's at least 80% of the occupied dwelling units in the community must be occupied at least one occupant that is 55 years of age or older. Maximum units is 61 at 2.62 maximum density, and then the height building is capped at 35 feet. Minimum lot size is 6,000 square feet, and the RCA requirement is 30% for this area. The buffers are 20-foot type B along the northern property, 30-foot type B thoroughfare buffer, and also 30-foot along the southern property. And then there's a 50-foot type A buffer along the American Tobacco Trail. The PUD plan includes 11 architectural conditions. Some of those examples would be 3 different materials, and street-facing garages shall not protrude more than 1 foot in front of the front facade or porch. The project was reviewed by Environmental Advisory Board meeting, and they include 12 environmental conditions, such as the solar PV system of at least 3 kW shall be installed on at least 5 homes, and replacement of large and small trees. So the project will comply with the built-upon area, structural SCMs, and riparian stream buffer requirements of the UDO. For the Apex Transportation Plan, the courtyards on Wimberley PUD includes the transportation improvements of a 90-foot right-of-way along Wimberley Road and construct road widening consisting of 12-foot travel lanes, a 6-foot paved shoulder, roadside ditch, and then a 5-foot sidewalk at the back of the ditch. For the pedestrian and bicycle facilities, the construction of a 10-foot wide greenway, so there is a greenway that goes through the project. Sidewalks provided on both sides of the street, that's a requirement of the PUD. And then also we have, this is utility, sorry, those are the elevations. And looking at the off-site improvements upon dedication of right-of-way, the northern property is located right here. Here's the project site. By the northern property, the developer shall install a sidewalk along the frontage. So right now, there's an existing 5-foot sidewalk. It stops right there. So there's that gap. And then upon obtaining easement from the northern property owner, the developer shall make a greenway connection to the existing greenway to the north. It has a direct connection to the American Tobacco Trail. So it stops right here, and so we're trying to get that gap where the greenway would be, and then here's the direct connection to the American Tobacco Trail. So the American Tobacco Trail, they restrict how many connections are made into, so that's why it's not, a connection's not being proposed within this project, because there's one here, and I believe one to the south that's planned. And the Parks, Recreation, and Cultural Resource Advisory Commission made a recommendation for fee in lieu dedication with credit for cost to construct that greenway and a maximum of 61 single-family detached units. For housing, the affordable housing, at this time, the applicant and the town of Apex housing staff have not agreed upon an affordability commitment. They had a meeting today and they're still reviewing that. Planning staff recommends approval of the rezoning. Courtyards on Wimberley PUD as proposed by the applicant. The 2045 land use map designates the project as rural density residential and low density residential classification. So the Courtyard Wimberley plan proposes a maximum density of 2.62 And if the properties are rezoned as proposed, that would, the classification would change into low-density residential. The density and lot size are consistent with that in the nearby development. The proposed rezoning is reasonable and in the public interest, as the proposed density and uses are consistent with the adjacent developments while providing continued growth of available housing within Apex. And if you had any questions, the applicant is here as well.
On the previous slide, the property that's just north, and it's the, the language, upon dedication of right of way by the owner of that parcel. Is there an agreement already, or is that in the works, or is the owner of the parcel not committing to
Yeah,
that?
I'll have the applicant answer that question.
Do we have any questions for June? All right, I'll hold, we'll hold that question just one moment. I'll open, if there are no other questions, I'll open public hearing for we're on item 6. All right, and then Letitia and is it Sue Juan? Are you both together? Is that?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Very good.
Good
If you
evening.
want to start with his question, or if you want to dive right into your 3 minutes.
I'll answer his question and I'll dive into my 3 minutes at
Okay.
the same time, actually. Good evening, Madam Chair, members of the board. Letitia Shapiro with Morningstar Law Group here on behalf of the applicant Epcon Communities. Here with me this evening is Juan Montez of Epcon, here to answer any questions that you may have. Again, staff has done an incredible job getting us here this evening. Epcon Communities has a remarkable reputation for building 55 and over developments, creating a lifestyle of wellness for those who are ready to live life through retirement. And not only do they take pride in building community, but they love and take pride in working with the existing community, and that's what they did here. So to answer your question, we have secured that right-of-way dedication, so we will be closing that gap in sidewalk. And instead of just getting the easement, we've Epcon has purchased a half an acre from that same owner to make sure that we can make those additional off-site greenway connections and sewer outfall. So we do continue to work with affordable housing to make affordable housing a commitment. We're looking forward to feedback from the housing planning staff right now in order to make that commitment. But again, we are open to any questions and would appreciate your approval, our recommendation for approval. Thank you.
Thanks, Letitia. Okay, can I have Deborah Thalheimer?
Good evening. Our property is right next door to this, and I have just a couple concerns. One is, if you look in the corner of the map, that pond that's right on the corner of the property, that's actually when the owner of that land built it, he encroached on our property, and the water pours out onto our land. We haven't been able to get him to correct this. So there's a big gully on our property. And I was just wondering if as they develop it, are they going to remove that pond, fix that pond, put the drainage? I don't know where the drainage would go, to the tobacco trail. I don't know, there's a drainage problem there. My second issue is, when all the new buildings been going on and the infrastructure, the sewage and the water lines and all the work on the easement on Wimberley, we have a well, and it's started to cause our well to start to collapse. So we've had to repair that before. And the grading onto our property. So is there something that can be guaranteed if our well fails from the construction going on right next to our well? Will they fix our well? And also, we're thinking of putting our house on the market, and I was going to have an appraiser come but we haven't had that done this week. And we don't know the impact that these homes or next door is going to have on our property value. So we were going to get an appraisal at what it is, what we can list it for right now without the homes, and then what it would be with the impact of these homes. Because someone who would buy our property would do due diligence and find out what's growing. We did that 30 years ago, and we expected this growth. So anyone that's going to purchase our home would look at the same thing, and they'll see that there's going to be these homes. Would that be detrimental to us? And if Sarah home is worth, I'm going to say $1 million, it's not, but if it's worth $1 million right now, and then they find out these homes are going to bring it down to $700,000, will the builders give us that $300,000 in loss? And I think that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Deborah. Are there any other questions from the audience?
Madam Chair, could she point out where she lives?
Yeah. Yes. I think, June, can you, I think it's in the top right near the green, or the bottom right near the green, but where the green and the red. But June.
No, they're on the south side.
Yeah, that's not on that map.
Oh, I'm on the wrong side.
Yeah, I was like,
okay, never mind.
We're
right there?
We're here.
Oh, okay.
And this is the pond that goes into our property.
Okay.
All right.
Good.
I'm so sorry. Are you?
Juan.
You're Juan. Okay, Juan. Give me just one moment. Let me make sure there's nobody else. No, you're welcome to stand. I just want to make sure there's nobody else who had questions or comments.
Madam Chair, her last name, I'm sorry.
June Tallheimer.
Oh,
Did I-
okay.
did I-
Okay, perfect. Okay. I got it. Thank you.
Okay.
You said your what was your name? Deborah.
Please, if you have answers.
Yeah, sure. I'm Juan Montez, Director of Land Entitlements for EPCON. Thank you for hearing us out today. Just to speak on your concerns, we weren't aware of that, but I can commit to you myself that as we look to utilize that pond, we're going to be converting that pond and enhancing it from its current state. So its current state is not for stormwater treatment, but it will be converted to that. So in doing so, we have to rehabilitate that pond, build up its dams, and get it completely up to standard of Apex.
But building it up has caused our property to gully.
To wash away.
The washout, it washed our property away.
When Helene came through,
It really did.
Yeah, the overflow drains, not the main drain, but the overflow drains are at the very left-hand side of that pond, which is, draining onto our property up the way a little bit. And when Helene came down, you know how much rain came down with Helene, and it probably took about 3 feet of dirt away from, the bottom of the dam.
Sure.
And took it on out to
Yeah.
Jordan Lake.
Right.
So when you walk that property, if you walk it, you can see his pond is now way up here and our land is down here, and it used to be together.
Sure. So from EPCON, obviously, we will always make the commitment to improving the current state of the land. By Apex engineering standards, and me being an engineer by trade, we can't get this pond permitted unless it's deemed safe for surrounding communities. So I can see this being a huge improvement to your current situation, as we are going to utilize that pond as our facility. So in doing so, we have to make sure that the grading and the drainage, the pre and post drainage, is analyzed correctly. And I will give you my card, just to make sure if you have any concerns, you can talk to me directly. And that way I'd be happy to walk the property with you and see where that is exactly that you have concerns, and we can address that. So I think that was the one question. The other question about property values is EPCON Communities is a higher end luxury builder by standard. We are 55 and older. our houses go. They vary in affordability from $450 all the way up to $1.1 or $1.2 million. So as far as concern of your property value, I can almost guarantee it'll actually enhance your property value if anything.
But you have to realize, right now, we're like a little piece of country in the middle of a.
Sure.
And it's beautiful. Our land is actually very beautiful. It goes downhill. There's a pond, and like this morning, we're sitting on our deck watching this owl fish from the little pond.
Sure.
And now we're gonna have a house, homes right here. So I don't know if it will or not.
Well, that's why we'll make sure that landscape buffer in between your properties and our properties properly buffer any views that you have. Okay. And particularly for us, we take a lot of pride in the aesthetics of our neighborhood. We make our company is bread and butter is its lifestyle and its beauty and how you walk through that development. So, but now that you have my contact, any kind of concerns that you have, I'm happy to work with you on them. Whether it be property value or the storm drainage pond in particular. I'm glad you brought that up. I wasn't aware of that, but we'll be on top of that. So hopefully that answers 2 questions. I think you had another one.
Well, I'm really afraid
Oh, sure.
it's gonna collapse.
So our sewer is going up north. We are, if your sewer is on your property, we're not even gonna come close to that.
I'm not concerned with the sewer. I'm concerned with my well.
Oh, okay. Well, either way, we will be completely out of that area. I'm not sure exactly where your well is.
It's up by Wimberley.
Close to the road.
It's real close to the road.
All the major construction trucks.
Sure, okay.
It'll go right down the
It has
driveway.
kind of eroded it somewhat, shaken some
Sure.
sediment down it.
Well, let's have a conversation. I want to be considerate of everybody's time here, but I'd be happy to talk about that with you guys. Just make sure we're staying clear out of it. I did want to just make one point of clarity is for the greenway that we are taking up north for that connection. We have not purchased it yet. We are in agreement with the property owner to be able to do that. The property owner did not want to just grant us an easement. He wanted to get rid of that land if at all. So we agreed to buying that piece of property from him to make the greenway connection.
In its entirety?
No, it is just east of the creek, which in totality is about 1 acre.
Okay.
Yep.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. And thank you so much for answering the questions.
Yep.
I will close public hearing if there are no other comments and bring it back to the committee for discussion and possible motion.
I live very close to this property, and there is a need of 55 plus homes. And I sort of knew this area would get developed because it was it's Wimberley. Wimberley is high traffic road. The area is rapidly developing.
Mm-hmm.
Being developed to residential makes sense in terms of scale. So I agree.
Is that a motion?
I want to wait until I hear.
And so maybe I missed it in the pod, refresh me, is road improvements on Wimberley part of it? Do they have to widen Wimberley Road? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, all right.
Yeah, I think it's a good project, and the applicant and developer are doing good by the communities around them, as evident here. So unless anyone else has a comment, I'd like to make a motion to approve 24 CZ 22 Courtyards on Wimberley.
Thank you for the motion. Do I have a second?
I second. Stephen.
All right. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, that passes unanimously. Thank you. All right, this is a public hearing and possible motion regarding rezoning case 24 CZ23 Greenway Waste Expansion.
Thank you again, Chair. So this rezoning is located south of 540 here, as you can see on the little vicinity map. It's actually going to it actually includes the current Greenway Waste landfill of Apex. Here's an aerial image of the site provided below. As you can see, there's already been landfill activity going on for many, many years on site. The reason for this conditional rezoning is to incorporate additional land from adjacent property owners as part of an expansion of this landfill site, and also to bring some currently existing nonconformities up to code, or at least have them addressed through the conditions of approval of this process. The current zoning, as you can see here, there's a mixture. We have a mixture of sustainable development here in the purple. This is a representative. This is part of the Viridia development, this parcel here. As you can see, this black line is the development's edge. It'll be incorporating this parcel, and portions of these parcels here. The major overall site is currently already zoned LI, which is light industrial, and then the other little part that's being included is this tiny little beigey part, which is actually zoned high density single family, which seems a lot of place there. So that is what it currently is. If this was approved, it'll be changed. As you can see, these have all changed to light industrial conditional zoning, as well as this has as well. And overall, this entire project is about 141 acres in total. As with some of the other rezonings tonight, this will require a land use amendment, as a land use map amendment. Currently, we have these here. These are zoned for multi-use, high density, medium density, high density, industrial, office, commercial. This area is just industrial employment, and then this area as well. If this were approved, as you can see here, the 2545 land use map would change to all industrial employment through the amendment. As part of as this is said, this is part of the original Viridia development rezoning. Part of the challenge and why this makes sense and is reasonable is that this area is kind of cornered between a gas easement and also some unfavorable topography and land that is not suitable for the type of development that they're doing and is more suitable for this expansion. I just also want to point out that along this parcel here is also going to be the location for the Big Branch 1 pump station that's being developed here. So further limiting potential development of what Viridia could do with that, which adds to what this makes sense. There are proposed uses as part of this. Some of the proposed uses include stuff that already exists on the site, but I'll just run through them for you. Sanitary landfill, communication tower, recycling center, utility miner, yard waste transfer station, chipping and mulching, land clearing and inert debris landfill. In your staff report, you might have seen this list, and each one of them had maybe an S in a parentheses around it. That just lets you know that these uses will be permitted in the zoning district, but they still must achieve and obtain that special use permit to go with it. So that means going before our Board of Adjustment in a quasi-judicial hearing to show that they meet the findings of fact and all that. They are proposing 4 conditions as part of this as well. I'm just going to run through them real quickly for you. These conditions are here or suggested by the applicant and staff in order to address some non-conforming issues of the site as well. So number 1, the subject shall be exempt from providing any additional off-street parking that may be required by the UDO. And it lists the uses that we would not require any additional parking for. There was an attachment in your staff report from the property owner and business operator letting you know that there would not be a need for additional employment as part of this expansion. Given the overall we'll go back to this page. It shows you a good example. Just how much change and fluidity there is to these sites. There's not really a designated area for parking. Again, they've been working hard, and they're going to primarily be moving earth around, creating more landfill, and essentially not need additional employees to be able to do that. They'll just be providing a larger area. Number 2 condition is that there is a flagpole. There is a flagpole on site. I don't know if any of you drive by there, you might have seen it. It's very tall, very big. It currently exceeds the limitations set in the section of the UDO, and what it would do is it would permit it on the subject site. The only thing is it would not be allowed to increase beyond its current size or height. So we're saying we see this, it's been a part of the site for a while before it came into Apex's jurisdiction. We're going to let this exist as nonconformity, but we're going to catalog it and make sure that it doesn't get any bigger and become more of a nonconforming issue. Number 3 speaks to the encroachment into the 100-foot type A buffer along NC Highway 42. I'm sorry, not 42, NC Highway 540. 42 is where I live. I think I'm getting tired. Up here, this is NC 540, right? There's a buffer, 100-foot buffer that's present here. Before this area was even, looks like there was parts that were developed and have encroached as part of their use here. That it looks like it happened even before this area became part of the NC 540 area. So we're saying we acknowledge that this is something that wasn't expected. So we're going to also catalog that and make sure that that encroachment doesn't increase as well. Number 4, there's any existing encroachment into the 250-foot setback for the use for land clearing, inert debris, and landfills will be permitted. Again, that just says we understand that this is when this changed and everything was built, that there's probably some non-conforming issues. We're going to be aware of that. We're going to look at that, and we're going to decide we're not going to let that extend any further, but we're not going to punish you since the site has already been there and is brought into our jurisdiction and now is non-conforming. We're trying to address that issue. All right. All right, and for those reasons, staff is recommending approval of the rezoning petition by the applicant with the conditions proposed by the applicant. The statement of reasonableness and consistency is provided by staff. The 2045 land use map designates this area as industrial employment, mixed use, medium density residential, high density residential, industrial employment / office employment / commercial services, which is not consistent with the land use map of office employment / industrial employment designation, but which is consistent with the land use map, but not consistent with, but with residential industrial employment office employment / commercial services designation. If the properties are rezoned as proposed, the portion of the 2045 land use map that is designated as mixed use will be automatically amended to industrial employment as shown in this map here, right there. The proposed rezoning is reasonable in the public interest because it will provide the ability for the site to support adequate waste services in the area, provide zoning conditions that provide flexibility in development standards to account for the fact that the landfill, as we stated, existed prior to coming into Apex as ETJ and prior to the construction of 540. The applicant is here to answer questions, and staff is here to answer any questions you may have as well.
Thank you. Any questions for Bruce?
I have a random question.
Yeah.
Right next to the flagpole, looking at the site map, it says proposed cell 5. You know what that is?
Yes, they've already, so they have to go through NCDOQ to get permits for continuing their work. They already have started the permit process to use that as a continual use of what they're already doing on the site. It's just on the site plan they had not filled it in yet. They're going to actually, on the next submittal, they'll be addressing that. That was a question staff had as well, like what are we doing with this? They'll be providing more information on that. But essentially, they're already trying to permit that cell 5 for to continue the work that they're doing already, just not shown on that site plan.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
I didn't know if that needed to be a condition of the rezoning or not, but.
Chairman, I apologize for this, but I need to ask for recusal from this one as well. I completely missed this in my review, but we are involved with RXR's project.
All right. I have a question, but let's recuse Alyssa first.
I'll make a motion to recuse Alyssa.
Thank you.
Jeff.
Sarah will second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? All right. Bruce, where is the flagpole?
I can't zoom in on this, I apologize. You can actually see the shadow. It's kind of in the middle of this large mantle point. From my understanding, it's
like right over here.
Okay. Yep. Oh, got it. I got it. Okay.
It's over there.
I seriously have never seen it. But wow, thank you.
Yes.
Learned something new. I'm wondering why we would exempt that. So I'm looking at that as a not a great, why we would say we could keep it. That doesn't feel like a great precedent to set.
It's one we saw it's been existing long before they came into our jurisdiction. The applicant, that was something they wanted to remain on site, so that was part of the condition that they recommended for approval. I'm sure they're happy to speak to it if you're interested in maybe having it removed or curious or have questions about that.
Yeah, so I'm sorry, let me understand. The applicant requested it be removed. This isn't something the town, the applicant requested the town, I'm sorry, the applicant requested that the flag, that they be opted out of the UDO consideration for the flag.
Through conversations with staff, we brought up the fact that that flagpole was non-conforming, and that as we were trying to address non-conforming issues, it might be wise if they wanted to keep it to include it as a condition of approval as part of this. So that is one thing that the applicant decided that they wanted to maintain, so they provided as a condition here.
And Ms. Sherman, to clarify, if the condition was not there, the flagpole can remain. It's just that if something were to happen to it, then it could not be rebuilt.
Got it.
So it doesn't require removal if the condition isn't approved.
Got it. So then can I ask what would be the need for the condition?
Just so it could be maintained in the future if something happened to it.
So is that, I'm not familiar with that as something that we normally do, so that's what I'm trying to understand. I am actually thinking about a cell tower that we had a huge discussion over, in which if something did happen, the cell tower had to be rebuilt to the standards that currently exist. So I'm just concerned about the slippery slope of allowing one applicant to do this and not another applicant to do it. But whatever precedent says, I'm concerned that I feel like I've heard this issue be raised before, and that if we're allowing one applicant to be grandfathered in and not allowing all applicants, that's problematic.
There's no real precedence. Staff didn't have a strong concern about this, given that it's not very visible. It's primarily visible for employees on site versus, you can see it from 540 if you're looking for it.
Clearly, I couldn't see it, but I know everybody else
So,
seen it.
given the circumstances, we didn't. It's not typical of other properties that are developing in Apex. So,
Okay, so I apologize. That doesn't really answer my question about precedence.
There's no
because
precedent.
There's no precedence either way or another. So do we have any concerns about setting a precedence?
No, because we look at things, just because you approve a condition in one place doesn't necessarily set a precedent for future rezonings, because we look at everything in context of the property that's being rezoned. And so given the placement of the pole on the property and where the property is, staff was not concerned about this at this condition.
Okay. I fear that allows for a lot of subjectivity that, again, I'm thinking of one particular instance. I wish I could remember what it was, of an area that was close to here that we, there was a cell or a radio tower that it was decided that if we did not, if something happened to that cell or radio tower, it would have to be rebuilt to the standards.
That's another jurisdiction saying that you would have to rebuild to a certain code. That's like, if a building comes down, you can't rebuild it the way it was, possibly historically, right? For the cell tower, you're going to have to upgrade it to current technologies and from a structural standpoint.
It has a radius, a fall radius.
I think a flagpole is something that you don't really have a.
Okay.
I think the towers are a different standard. I see what you're saying. The towers, I think, have like radius around 300, 500 foot, but a fall, and if it was, it would have to be to the same standard, which I believe is different than the flagpole.
Okay. Just naming that feels like a very slippery slope. All right, Bruce, that was my only question. Does anybody else have any questions? All right, with that, I will open public hearing for this case. Thank you.
I think it might just be us.
All right, it might just be you. All right, you both have you have 3 minutes.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Mr. Winstead and Mr.
That's
Griffin?
me. That's me.
Awesome. Very nice to meet you.
Good evening, Madam Chair, members of the board. Hunter Winstead with Morningstar Law Group, representing the applicant Greenway Waste Solutions. With me here is Mr. Mike, who can address any more technical questions. I'm happy to address some of the legal questions if we want to get into precedential value. I've tried to make the arguments before, had some experience, so I'm happy to talk about that if anyone has questions there. I think Bruce did an amazing job with specifics. I totally agree with the presentation. Obviously, I'm quite happy with the recommendation. Totally agree with it. What I will say is this is an exciting project that I think is going to provide significant value for the town of Apex. I think there is a significant need for the types of services that Greenway provides, mainly yard waste. And I think this project does exactly that. And so I think it is quite exciting for the town and will be very valuable. The three main points I'll make, which I know Bruce also mentioned, is it complies with the future plan, it is reasonable, and it is in the public interest. And those are really the three kind of guiding lines. And so for that reason, we would request that this board recommend approval. And again, we're happy to answer any questions, legal or technical. We will answer them if you have them. Thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Mike Griffin, owner of Greenway Waste Solutions. One, thank you for your service to the town. I know it can be often late nights and so forth. We appreciate that. Specific to the flag, we do have veterans on our team that desired to put that flag up years ago. And I think the technical out of conformity is about 3 feet too tall, the pole. And we did actually reduce the size of the flag to make it conforming. So it's now got the 5x6 flag. And I think you're correct. You'd have to kind of look hard to see it from the road, but our staff has enjoyed it. So that was one of our reasons to keep it there. But on the worst case, we can actually lower the pole by the 3 or 4 feet to make it 100% conforming. But I think like Hunter or the staff, Mr. Venable said, that was put up years ago. So it was kind of before we knew there was a conforming ordinance at the town. And if you have any other questions, I'd be glad to answer.
All right, with that, I'm going to, unless there's anybody else who'd like to speak, I'm going to close public hearing. All right, I'll close public hearing and open it up to the floor. And so, gentlemen, you may be coming back to answer questions.
We can sit down if you want.
Don't go too far, but
I have a question while you're up there. Do y'all have a relationship with Southern Wake Landfill?
Southern Wake? Yeah, the question, do we have a relationship with Southern Wake? We do. Often we have, obviously we educate consumers. They come to our facility. If they have free disposal, we educate them to go to Southern Wake. And also, if they have customers that have just construction and demolition debris, which we manage, they divert them to us. But there's no other partnership outside of that.
Okay. Are there public roads inside of that development? Or is it mainly just closed?
Yeah, our public road that services as Old Smithfield Road, which is shared with the convenience center and Southern Wake.
Where I'm going with this, I guess, from I was placed on this commission as a historic representative. If you look right below, right in the sort of the middle of the screen, about a little over halfway to your left, you go up about 2 inches, there's a little green blob that's right there.
Yeah, the little, it's trees, the little tree square area.
Yeah, yeah.
I know it has to be historic.
There's a cemetery in there. It's Old Feltonville Cemetery.
Yeah.
And I would love to, I'd love to work with you, because the problem is, any of the family members that want to go there, they have to make an appointment with a Southern Wake landfill, and somebody from the county has to meet them out there. And so if there was a way to provide better access, I'd love to talk to you later on. But yeah. I love that thought of what you're trying to do with that piece of property.
Thank you. Yeah, I appreciate the history, because I was curious myself. And there could be a possibility through RXR and through Viridia with the pump station that's being built.
Right.
I'll look at that and kind of see how that works.
I'll get with you.
I'll get with you.
I'll get you my information.
Yeah.
But thank you.
Out of curiosity, do you know when that was established, that cemetery? How old it is?
Oh, it's late 1700s.
Wow. Okay. Interesting.
Yeah.
I didn't know that was.
Yeah.
I didn't know I was getting a history lesson this evening. Appreciate it. Do we have any questions for the gentleman or possible motions? Also for the gentleman.
I think with the expansion of what we have going on, development that's going on, we need more area. I mean, that's just the way it is. We're growing. We need more area. So I'm glad it's actually there. We're not that site is not limited and we're looking for a whole new site, right? So this is good. We can expand out. It's easy. The operation's already set up, ready to go. I think it's easy. Appreciate the veterans putting the flagpole up, keep it going. So I would make a motion to approve the 24 CZ 23 Greenway Waste Expansion.
All right.
I, Sarah So, will second. I have no objection.
All right. All in favor? Oh, I have a first and a second, and all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? All right, that passes unanimously. Thank you. All right, item number 8, possible hearing and possible motion regarding rezoning case 25CZ03-309 North Salem Street.
Ms. Sherman, if you can bring Alyssa back to the meeting.
Oh, thank you.
You keep trying to ignore Alyssa.
I mean, we're almost done.
Can I have a motion to bring Alyssa back to the meeting?
I, Sarah, would like to bring Alyssa back on.
And a second?
I'll make a second, Jeff.
Thank you. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, Alyssa, welcome back. Thank you. Joshua, we are ready.
All righty, good evening. Joshua Killian here to present rezoning case 25CZ03-309 North Salem Street. Excuse me. This rezoning is located on North Salem Street at the northern boundary of the commercial core of our downtown area. This property is only 0.233 acres and is within the Apex National Register Historic District and is a surveyed home. The current zoning of this property is mixed office, residential, retail, conditional zoning. I'm going to say MORR-CZ moving forward for that one. The land to the south and west are downtown business. The zoning to the east across North Salem Street is neighborhood business, and to the north is a single-family home in the medium-density residential zoning district. The applicant is proposing to rezone this property to MORR-CZ for the purpose of allowing one additional use on the parcel. The applicant is also limiting that use to an allowed square footage that matches what is existing of the home, the footprint of the home. The applicant held multiple neighborhood meetings in January, March, and 2 in April. Those neighborhood meetings reports are in your packet. The rezoning case was exempt from meeting with the Environmental Advisory Board per the UDO, and the Apex housing staff did not make a recommendation for affordable units due to no increase in residential entitlement on this property. A Wake County Public Schools letter of impact was not requested or received for this rezoning, again, as there's no proposed increase in residential density. The 2045 land use map identifies this parcel as mixed use, medium density residential, office employment, commercial services, and the proposed zoning district is consistent with that land use classification. Planning staff recommends approval of rezoning case 25CZ03 with the conditions as offered by the applicant. The proposed rezoning is reasonable in the public interest as the proposed zoning district and conditions allow the property to be used in a manner that is consistent with the mixed-use character of the downtown area. If you have any questions for planning, I am here to answer, and I believe the applicant is here as well in the audience.
You have any questions for Joshua?
Was there a traffic impact analysis?
There was not.
I can't tell if there's a flagpole there.
There is.
Okay. We are clearly getting slap happy. I'm gonna open up the public hearing for this. We have none. Okay. Anybody in the audience care to speak on this case? With that, I will close the public hearing. And just want to make sure applicant didn't want to speak either. Nope. Okay. The applicant is here if we have questions. Thank you. All right. With that, I bring it back to the board for questions and possible motion.
Well, I'll just say that when I first saw fitness center in a house this old, I got a little bit nervous, but kudos for doing a Pilates. I think that's a perfect use for this house. So, Nobody else has an issue. I'll make a motion to approve CZ 25 CZ 03 309 North Salem Street.
I'll second that motion. Alyssa?
Thank you. Also excited about Pilates. My old Pilates studio is gone. All right, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? All right, that passes unanimously. Thank you, Joshua.
Thank you.
Lauren, we haven't heard from you this evening.
Oh, she's been hanging around.
Slowly making my way up.
All right, this is public hearing and possible motion regarding rezoning case number 25 CZ 05 West Village PUD.
Yes, good evening. This is rezoning case 25 CZ 05 West Village PUD Amendment located at 2517 Kelly Road. The intent of this PUD amendment is to amend the phasing and transportation improvements related to POD 1. This property is located in this general area within the ETJ. The property to be rezoned is located on the east side of Kelly Road and west of NC 540, and is located within the overall West Village development. The property is currently zoned Plan Unit Development Conditional Zoning. To the north, you have Plan Unit Development Conditional Zoning. To the east and south, you have Residential Agricultural. And to the west, you have Plan Unit Development Conditional Zoning and a Mixed Office Residential Retail Conditional Zoning. The applicant is proposing to rezone the property to PUD conditional zoning, amending the current West Village PUD. The 2045 land use map designates the subject property as mixed use, high density residential, office employment, commercial services, and the proposed rezoning is consistent with the land use map classification. The applicant conducted 2 neighborhood meetings and the reports are attached in your staff report packet. An impact letter from the Wake County Public School System was not required since this isn't an increase in residential density. And the rezoning was exempt from meeting with the Apex Environmental Advisory Board. The property is approximately 5.8591 acres and contains structures and existing vegetation. As mentioned, the property was originally rezoned to Plan Unit Development Conditional Zoning in July 2016 as part of the West Village development. This reference exhibit shown is an overview of the West Village PUD development. As you can see in the pinkish colors, those are the non-residential parcels. A more zoomed in picture, the parcel associated with this rezoning is shown as POD 1 and is approved for non-residential uses. To provide background, the current West Village PUD includes transportation and road improvement conditions linked to non-residential parcels. Currently, the transportation infrastructure improvements within the non-residential district must be completed before issuance of the first CO for a non-residential building. As the PUD is currently written, the first parcel to develop a non-residential use would need to construct all required road improvements and transportation infrastructure for the overall permitted 500,000 square feet of non-residential uses, with the exception of what is specifically tied to POD 3. The proposed PUD amendment would allow for POD 1 to develop and provide only those transportation improvements associated with this property, with the remaining road improvements to occur with the development in the remaining non-residential pods 2 and 3. The Apex Transportation Plan identifies a roundabout at the location of the proposed site driveway on Kelly Road across from a future major collector street west of Kelly Road. Sorry, lost the mouse. Additionally, the transportation plan shows widening on Kelly Road from the intersection northward to a 4-lane median divided thoroughfare with 6-foot bike lanes and 5-foot sidewalks, and southward as a 3-lane thoroughfare with widening with 6-foot bike lanes and 5-foot sidewalks. The proposed amendments to the Plan Unit Development Conditional Zoning are consistent with the Apex Transportation Plan. The applicant is proposing to amend Section 13, Public Facilities associated with POD 1, with this PUD amendment. No further changes are proposed to the previously approved rezonings. If you'd like to follow along with the proposed amendments, they start on page 2 of the staff report. So besides general revisions and references changing the build-out year, there are revisions to Pod 1 that I would like to point out. So I have the screenshots of certain vicinity areas, so if you have any further questions, I'm happy to answer them as we move forward. The additional condition related to Street A and Street B, including the Kelly Road at Side Drive 4. So it's a little hard to tell, so the arrow right here is kind of where the intersection. The developer shall prepare a preliminary design and engineering estimate for the review and approval and dedicate right-of-way and construction easements for the future construction of the roundabout at the intersection of Site Driveway, Kelly Road, and Street A. Prior to the site plan final plat for Pod 1, the developer shall pay a fee in lieu of 8% of the estimated cost to design and construct the roundabout. In addition to the condition related to Kelly Road at Olive Chapel in this location, the developer shall provide a preliminary plan and engineer's estimate for review and approval and pay a fee in lieu in the amount of 8% of the total estimated cost of the improvements prior to site plan final plat for Pod 1. Similar, at Kelly Road at Apex Barbecue within this location, the condition related to the developer constructing the eastbound, westbound, northbound, and southbound left turn lanes and the northbound and southbound right turn lanes has been revised to reference that the improvements have been completed and no additional improvements are recommended for the updated commercial build dates for Pod 1, 2, or 3.
Lauren, I'm so sorry. Can I ask you to go back?
Sure.
Can you repeat the Olive Chapel?
Sure thing. So the developer shall provide a preliminary plan and engineer's estimate for review and approval and pay a fee in lieu in the amount of 8% of the total estimated cost of the improvements prior to site plan final plat.
At Olive Chapel and Kelly Road.
Correct. These are off-site improvements.
Okay. I'm not clear on why. I'm sure you will get there.
Yes, and I also
Okay.
have Russell here
Okay.
to provide additional transportation and traffic. I think I said this. Okay. At Old US 1 at Kelly Road, so within this location, the condition related to completing a signal warrant analysis at the intersection of Old US 1 and Kelly Road to determine if a traffic signal is warranted has been removed. At Old US 1 at Pleasant Plains Road in Site Drive 6, the condition related to installing a traffic signal has been removed as well. At Old US 1 at Site Drive 5, so around this location, it has been, the condition has been revised so that the developer shall convert the Site Drive number 5 from a right-in, right-out to a signalized full movement intersection instead of constructing a Site Drive as a full movement, as the full movement intersection. So it'll be signalized. The development of Pod 1 shall include the roadway infrastructure improvements consistent with the TIA on file and the Apex Transportation Plan. The road improvements shall be subject to the Town of Apex and NCDOT approval. For the widening along Kelly Road, the developer shall dedicate right-of-way for the length of the property's frontage, so right here, measured out at 55, at a minimum 55 from the existing center line of Kelly Road, and widen and improve the Kelly Road for the length of the property's frontage consistent with the Apex Transportation Plan. At Kelly Road and the Site Drive, so depending on where their Site Drive goes, the developer shall construct the site driveway with a stop-controlled approach, so one ingress and one egress, and a southbound left turn lane on Kelly Road. So the last two are just specific to improvements when the site is developed. So this concept can be found on page 7 of your staff report. It's very hard to see, so it's on page 7. This illustrates the proposed build 2028. The initial commercial phase is on the left side, and the build 2030, or the full build out, is on the right side. On the left side, you'll see the word note. So right here, and right here. And that just shows the locations that the developer will pay proportional fee in lieu for future improvements, as noted in the West Village Commercial Phasing Study review letter. And on here just shows the full build out, and this shows you where the roundabout is located. The proposed amendments to the current plan unit development conditional zoning are consistent with the 2045 land use map, which classifies the area to be rezoned as mixed use, high density residential, office employment, and commercial services. The proposed rezoning is reasonable and in the public interest, as it will ensure compliance with the existing conditions of the previously approved PUDs while allowing the subject property, POD 1, to construct transportation improvements appropriate to the size of the parcel and the square footage of the non-residential use. The PUD amendment will allow the remaining road improvements from the previous rezoning to be constructed as the non-residential uses are developed in POD 2 and 3. Transportation staff agree with the proposed transportation conditions proposed by the applicant and the TIA recommendations. Under Build 2028, the conditions of the site driveway are expected to operate acceptably as proposed. Planning staff recommends approval of rezoning case 25CZ05 West Village PUD amendment as proposed by the applicant. I'm happy to answer any questions, as well as Russell to answer the majority of the transportation questions.
Thank you. Thank you, Lauren. Folks have questions? I am not clear on some of the offsite construction makes sense. I'm all for widening Kelly Road, but I'm not clear on how this arrangement at this juncture came with the widening all the way. Like the southern offsite makes sense, the northern one doesn't make sense. I'm sure there is a very rational reason, but I'm just not clear on what that is.
Sure. I would, Jessica would, for transportation staff, if she'd like to answer. Or, yeah, sure.
Also, this building now removes, Apex PD has been sitting down there for a little while, so that removes that ability for them to sit right there.
Sure, Kutcher will be bummed about that. Hi, I'm Jessica McClure. I'm the new traffic safety engineer. I work with Russell. Thank you. I think this is my first planning board meeting, so good to see you all. As far as the fee in lieu for the offsite, since the original PUD was, all the improvements were tied to the non-residential use, and now this is breaking off a piece. It's to avoid these pieces breaking off and improvements never getting done because they're too expensive for certain sections to do. So with a fee in lieu, because you're part of the non-residential, you're paying your portion. We're not gonna make you go out and do the whole thing, but you know, in fairness and equity, you are contributing. So that's where it kind of, and their traffic's about 8%.
Got it. So this is essentially earmarked for these improvements, which our prior neighbors would appreciate that there was some improvements that were coming along. Okay, thank you. That absolutely makes sense. Any additional questions for Lauren? Or, I'm so sorry. Jessica. Or Russell.
Russell's done for the night. He saved this one for last.
All right, with that, I'm going to open up the public hearing. Thank you.
And I'd also like to say for record, we did receive one email from the...
I can't hear you.
Oh, sorry. Just for record, we did receive that public hearing email from a neighbor, which you have seen. I just wanted to put that there.
Thank you. Collier? Did I say that right? Thank you. And Collier, I just want to, if you missed before, you have 3 minutes to cover whatever Lauren did not, and then we'll bring it back if any additional questions are had.
Sure. Good evening. I'm Collier Marsh with Parker Poe at 301 Fayetteville Street here on behalf of the applicant team. And we do actually have a number of people here with us. We have Rahab Hamad and Yezen Hamad with Triline Commercial. We have Jeff Roach with Peak Engineering and Reinald Stevenson with DRMP, all available to answer questions. But this is just a minor amendment to the West Village PUD. And really, we're grateful for staff, because what we've done here is we've found a solution to be able to start developing commercial. So a lot of times when you have a PUD that brings in a large amount of residential entitlement and commercial entitlement, and the focus is on the residential, they don't think about how you're actually going to develop the commercial for a piece of property. So when the original PUD was approved, it had transportation improvements for 500,000 square feet of non-residential, and those all had to be built before the first CO. So what that means is that one small project, this is 40,000 square feet, would be responsible for a page long of intersection improvements. It's quite extensive. And so staff has worked with us to come up with the transportation improvements that match this project. So it's frontage improvements, it's entrance improvements, as well as then paying its proportionate share to certain offsite improvements. And so we think it's a win to be able to encourage meaningful commercial development. And so with this handout that you have here, it shows just the small pod that we're developing, a small piece of the non-residential entitlement here. On the upper left-hand corner, it's a concept site plan that is not in staff review yet, but I wanted to share that information because Triline Commercial has an established record of developing successful commercial like this. If you think at Green Level Church Road and Green Level West Road, where the Mezcalito restaurant is, the Mexican restaurant and the daycare, they developed that. That's the similar concept to what they're envisioning here, but a project like that can't bear the extensive commercial or extensive transportation improvements that otherwise would be required for this large development. So staff fully supports it. We're excited about it, and we're happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Thank you. All right, is there anybody else here to speak? All right, with that, I'll close the public hearing, bring it back to the board for questions, discussion, and possible motion.
Well, that's one question. I know there's a house on Kelly Road, the 2-story house that Cattle River Preservation looked at a while back and deemed the house was not really salvageable, but in the August 2nd, 2016 town council meeting, the original amendment, they agreed to relocate one of the outbuildings. I think it's a corn crib. Would that still be standing?
Yeah, so that's still within the PUD, and that's not being amended with this rezoning. It only relates to the transportation improvements. So we're aware of it, and we're prepared to handle that appropriately with the PUD requirements.
Perfect. And so where Street A intersects with Old US 1, did I understand that there'd be a signal there eventually, or did I mishear, Lauren?
Yeah, so that I think that was part of the original requirements. It's not part of this project because we don't touch it.
And maybe this is for Russell or whatnot. When that happens, is there a possibility to get the 540 Old US 1, Street A, and Pleasant Park signalized together?
Oh, that's a great question.
That's a good question.
Yeah. Step out of this conversation.
Because just the stacking that'll take place there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I didn't mean to stump the audience.
No, that's okay. Well, it's not shown on the aerial here, but so I just want to be clear. The question is, once the signal goes in, this gets converted and the signal goes in down here, can these signals be coordinated together?
That's correct. Yes,
Right.
ma'am.
Yes, I believe they will be.
Okay. Great.
I don't think DOT will.
That's all the questions I've got.
All right. Additional questions?
No questions.
All right. If there are no questions, or is there a motion?
Wow, this crowd has covered transportation, hadn't they? I mean, this was about intense transportation read as I've had in a while. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Well, if that's the case, I'll make a motion to approve rezoning case 25 CZ 05 West Village PUD amendment. And it's Jeff.
All right, thank you.
And Keith, I'll second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you all. I just have one more motion, please.
I'd like to make a motion. This is Sarah.
That motion is?
To adjourn.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Oh, I need a second. I'm sorry. I'm
Oh,
sorry.
that's right.
Second.
Tim will
Daniel
second.
All right. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All right. Thank you all.
Thank you.